pop culture junkies, and welcome to our Monday night party, where we'll be hanging out with some of our rowdy friends to bring you the most current, exciting topics floating around in the zeitgeist. Welcome to Raw Rant, where the truth may not set you free, but at the very least, it will open your eyes and hopefully entertain the hell out of you. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Shane Montgomery, and with me, as always, on the boards is my brother from a literal other mother, Brian Montgomery. Say hi, Brian.
Hey, everybody. My name is Brian.
And joining us tonight on Raw Rant is multimedia superstar, John Campea show color personality, master of his own media empire called the Burnett Work, and longtime Star Trek expert, the viceroy of verisimilitude, Robert Meyer Burnett.
Thank you. It's great. Always great to be here, you guys.
Nice.
And you're the only people in the wilderness that knew what I knew.
and we're going to talk about that. I'm looking forward to it.
Your skin is so nice.
Also joining us is a former network executive who finally said enough is enough and took his rants from theater lobbies to the annals of YouTube, where his rants have been received in epic proportions. Let's hear it for the man who's never met a punch he wanted to pull. Call me Chato, Paul Chato.
Thank you. I've been spending a lot of time with YouTube's annals.
Yes. we need a clap.
That's the way I swing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And in the red corner, wearing purple boxers and a Seth Trek t-shirt, the Mocklin master of disaster, the Orville evangelist, and one hell of a funny, nice guy. Give him all your money, JP Egotastic FunTime.
I wish I wore that shirt. I should have worn my Seth Trek shirt. At least I wore a shirt, though. You got to give me that.
Right. His parents got so tired of hearing him complain about what a poor job Mattel was doing about making his beloved Hot Wheels that they changed his name to Salty. Representing the gang over at the Salty Nerd Podcast, the pride of Las Vegas, Alex Salty Almany.
What's up, everybody? Thank you guys so much for having me. I feel like a little minnow in a very big lake. These are some heavy-hitting names. I do not belong here. Thank you all for having me.
You belong here, my brother.
Sure you do.
And last but not least, a friend to
I got to land on someone on the way down.
I noticed they swapped our places.
And last but not least, a friend to everyone in the community, our self-proclaimed brown representation who has no problem building a wall as long as he gets paid for it, the lover of guacamole with a heart made of spare parts being sold with the chiclets at the Tijuana border, Mexican Iron Man.
Woo! I love that intro. Thanks so much for having me. A huge fan of all these channels, as each of you know. It is my honor to be here. It's been a blast to be a fan of all these channels, and I have to say I happen to be wearing my Salty Nerd Podcast shirt.
Wow, nice.
I had to say, just by chance. So I'm right next to my Salty Nerd fanboy brother. So I'm your fanboy, Alex.
I appreciate that. I love you too, buddy.
Representing. So everybody's doing good tonight. Had a great weekend. Enjoyed Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, enjoyed the commercials.
Yeah, I saw a couple of the commercials.
I don't even know who won. I stayed until I saw the Flash trailer, and then I left.
That sounds about right. Well, we have a full show ahead of us tonight, guys. It's going to be a lot of fun. Let's see. We've got all the great people here in the chat. Thank you, all the regulars from the Thursday show, and some new faces too. I know people are going to be piling in as they figure out what the hell are these guys doing a Monday show now. They never done that before. We have some exciting topics tonight, including a special look at Picard Season 3. Who loves it? Who hates it? And what does it mean for the future? Is the world under alien attack, or is it just China messing with our heads? The Flash trailer is finally out, but is that good or a bad thing for DC? And finally, Antman and the Wasp: Quantumania hits theaters this week. Will it be a return to the domination for Marvel, or will it just be a win?
Suck.
For our first topic tonight, it's not shocking news that legacy Star Trek fans have been disappointed with the Star Trek since the first season of Star Trek Discovery back in 2017. This includes 2 disappointing seasons of Star Trek Picard. Some of the panel members here have had the opportunity to see the full season of the show, as well as some other notable YouTubers like Dave Cullen, and they are reporting it as a return to Berman-era Star Trek. Dave Cullen, Robert Meyer Burnett, and Brian and I gave it a standing ovation at the conclusion, but many fans are saying it is too little too late. And a small select group of YouTubers, including someone who will go unnamed since Mexican Iron Man is a good friend, along with his loyal following, won't be happy until Star Trek is burned to the ground. Robert, can you explain what it is all these disillusioned Star Trek fans are thinking, who believe the only solution to saving Star Trek is to fire Secret Hideout and Alex Kurtzman at all costs?
Well, I've been saying since 2009, I call it the Great Star Trek Hostage Crisis. We're into year 14 now. It is, and I still feel that way. I have a very vociferous dislike of. I'll tell you. I think I should explain something. So, when I read the original 13 outlines for all the first season of Discovery and the original 2 scripts. The first script was written by Brian Fuller. The second script was written by Nicholas Meyer. And this was the show that was getting made. There was no mycellular network. That was all it was all for terraforming. There was the tardigrade character was actually worked in engineering, and it was an alien called Ephraim, and he was part of the engineering crew. And it was very interesting. And of course, this was when Brian Fuller was completely in control of it. And then basically the way it was explained to me is they thought that Star Trek could be made for $1 million an episode. And what was not understood is that Star Trek has a very large upfront cost, more than is associated with most programs, because everything has to be built. You have to build the sets, you have to make the costumes, the special effects. And what you do is you amortize all of those costs across the 13 episodes. It later became 15, but the 13 episodes of the first season. But you have to absorb those costs up front. And for instance, during the era of Rick Berman's reign, Rick Berman produced 25 seasons of Star Trek over 18 years. He never went over budget, and he understood how to produce a show. And when they wanted to spend more money on something like Best of Both Worlds, they would budget for that, and they would do bottle episodes to save money accordingly. Now, one of the things I have to say that is brilliant, first of all, from a producing standpoint, from what Terry Matalas did, essentially, and don't freak out when I say this, people, Star Trek Picard Season 3 is essentially a bottle season. Now, what do I mean by that? Much of it is set on starships, in space, on their standing sets. They're not going to planets. They're not going to locations. They're not going out and shooting on location, which, in my mind, is a brilliant way to approach a season, wanting to save money for things that matter to you, such as special effects. So there is definitely, there's a very Tom Clancy-esque feel to this season. Terry is a huge fan of things like Hunt for Red October, as I've learned as I've gotten to know him. And there's a large, sprawling saga that's being told here. And what I love about it is, from its conception, it's very tightly written and plotted. And at its core, like all great Star Trek, it's about the characters and the characterization and the story that's being told. And they really knew exactly what story they were telling, as opposed to feeling willy-nilly like Star Trek or Picard seasons 1 and 2. I mean, they never really, the way synths, for instance, were treated in Picard season 1, I'm like, what show am I watching? This is not Star Trek. And why are there's a massive failure of imagination and science fiction in Picard seasons 1 and 2. Why would all synths be humanoid? Why wouldn't you build a synth that's, say, 100 feet across, and its job is to build starships? You know, instead we see these little, why aren't there all different kinds of synths? Why does every synth have to look humanoid? Why are there no Andorian synths? You know, why, I mean, none of that made much sense. I mean, if you were going to have synthetic organisms and they were going to serve on various crews, you would have synths designed to more, like if you had the Intrepid from, for instance, the Immunity Syndrome, that was a Constitution class ship with all Vulcans. Wouldn't you have Vulcan-looking synths? I mean, or not, maybe not. I don't know. But the thing about Picard Season 3 is it's incredibly well-written, and it relies on the character interplay, which is what Star Trek was always best at. And you'll see that immediately in the first episode, the way Riker and Picard treat one another. They have a breezy, fun camaraderie that's immediately new to modern Star Trek. And that's what I loved about it. And it's something I think has been missing from Star Trek since 2009. Like, my problem is I can't suspend my disbelief. I can't suspend my disbelief in Discovery, why are all the sets so large? We're on a ship that's in space with a limited volume, where every bit of that ship would be used for something, and these gigantic, expansive sets don't make sense to me.
Oh no, they're being resold as condos after the show's done.
Yeah, I mean, and and when you see the turbo lifts, you know, these roller coaster cars that are going through all of this empty space. Where is this empty space? In literally what universe are you? And it shows a massive failure. I have shelves of Star Trek reference material, and it's like, guys, one glance at one of those books would help you fix most of the problems that you have watching the show. And another reason is that the people that are writing modern Star Trek they're generic. They come from not The Last of Us, This Is Us, or they come from a relationship drama. And any of the dialogue that you see in Discovery could be plug and played into any show. It's not necessarily about Star Trek. And the people that are writing these shows have no sense of what is speculative fiction supposed to be. What is the story that we're telling? And none of the science, none of the technology doesn't bear any relationship to real science.
I think you're nailing it on all these points. There's so much to go into it. I wanted to ask Paul really quick. So I think we'd all agree the fans have a right to be skeptical about Star Trek Picard season 3, considering what we've gotten before. So what do you have to say about the fans who are skeptical, Paul? If it's good, should they wait to see it for themselves, or what do you think?
Well, I tend to look at things as a network executive with a network executive hat on. And I didn't see seasons 1 and 2, but it's amazing a property with such a strong brand. Maybe it's damaged, but it's still strong, that if the show out of the gate is good, a lot of people will forgive, as my theory.
That makes sense. We've come a long ways. How do you feel? Mexican Iron Man, you have an inside trek on. You're friends with people who like it. You're friends with people who aren't going to like it no matter what. What's your take on Picard season 3 and Star Trek as a whole coming up to this point?
Well, I have a pragmatic, I have real world experience with production, accounting in Hollywood, and how studios run and how dysfunctional TV and movie productions can be. And so I'm being very pragmatic about this. I'm under no illusions that whether everyone loves it or hates it, I don't know if that's going to make a doggone bit of difference in terms of the future Trek we're going to get. I've seen every single episode of every offering of modern Trek. Not many people can say that. Many people jumped the boat on Discovery early on in Discovery. I've seen all of it. Many people jumped the boat in Picard season 1 after they got 1 or 2 bad episodes. I didn't. I kept going, as well as all the other series. So I've seen all the good. Well, there isn't much good. With little few rays of light and mostly misery, and it's been a miserable experience. Star Trek, William Shatner is my TV dad. KTVU San Francisco. I was raised by a single mom, latchkey, who worked double shifts 5 days out of the week, and okay, so like this is on my desk, right? This is my little coin bank.
Yes,
but so. Trek is burned to the ground for me in the modern era, but I'm very
Shatner came over and breastfed you, right?
Well, almost through the TV screen. I mean, I literally said to myself as a kid, you're kidding, but not by much. I mean, literally, when I was watching these reruns, I said I wanted to be him. I wanted to grow up. I wanted to be brave. I wanted to be a problem solver. I wanted to be courageous in the face of adversity. And I said, someday I want to grow up and be like him. Now, some would argue that maybe his womanizing ways rubbed off on me a little bit too much, but that's okay. I'll take that. I'll take it. Going back to RMB's point earlier, it's a tough pill to give modern Trek a chance. However, I'm very pragmatic about things, and I'm very fair about things. And I'm an optimistic person by nature. I have the dubious probably reputation of the fact that I'm probably more fans and get along with more YouTubers who do and don't get along than anybody. Okay. And that's because I literally go into everything with a positive outlook. And that's how I'm going to go into this. Regardless of the past and being burned. And, maybe I feel like I'm in an abusive relationship, and I do. But I've got to understand that Paramount is a dysfunctional place. Star Trek has been managed in a dysfunctional way. And I'm going to put this thing. being very pragmatic about this, and I'm going to watch it for what it is. I probably, unbeknownst to many, known to a few, is that I actually know almost all of the major plot lines of what's going to happen. So I can't not be interested, and so I am going to watch it, and I'm going to be fair, and I'm going in bushy-tailed, but I also am very pragmatic in the sense that if it's great and it's amazing, I don't expect to get anything great or amazing after this, because I don't believe Paramount executives would make the right decision anyways with the right people. I just don't. But on the flip side, if I don't like it, I'll be honest about it. And so I'm gonna be very fair. I'm gonna go in bushy-tailed like a little bunny rabbit, and I'm going to. It's the way I go into everything. Good God, I win a She-Hulk that way, for God's sake.
Right?
So.
Yeah, same here.
Excellent. Hey, Brian, you want to grab that super chat?
Yeah, we got a quick super chat here. From Rebecca Spade. Awesome panel. I love all of you. Question for R&B and the Popcast Bros. Bad timing for R&B to drop. How much of the trailer was misdirection? Because it seems like fan service, and I feel like my hype might be misplaced again. Referring to Picard season 3 podcast, final season.
Do you want to answer that?
Shane? I mean, I can answer it. Most trailers. Oh, and good things. Rob is back, but
clearly that was Paramount.
I'll let him tell you in a second. But most trailers have a little bit of misleading to them because they have to be like action packed. I gotta tell you, I mean, we've said it before. The only thing misleading I can see is from that first trailer when like everyone took the pacifism Worf thing as more.
I never got that. I was like, he's got a sword on his back.
Yeah, it was a gag. It was clearly a gag. Yeah, he has a sword. Yeah, so like people call that is it misdirection? I mean, it was a gag. Sometimes trailers have fun stuff, and I don't think it's misdirection. This question is also for you, Rob.
Well, I think that they should have done. It's a trailers. There's a tone to certain trailers, and clearly, like when they did the trailer for the AFC Championship game, they were trying to appeal to that audience, which was all action and adventure. And when you see, because I've worked doing network promos before, and they have the titles of the trailers. Sometimes they should have made an emotional trailer where they dealt only in character moments and conversation between characters. Because there's one thing that Picard season 3 has in abundance, and that is some great conversations between characters.
Right.
Really great stuff.
Oh yeah.
And the problem is a lot of that would be spoilerific. So I can understand them not doing it. But it's funny. I mean, I think that the trailers served as showing that the season is action packed, but there's a lot more philosophy, and there's a lot more character development, and there's a lot more thematic. There are various themes that are running through the lives of various characters that do really good. There's point counterpoint going on. For instance, between Picard and between Riker, and these things, and what we leave behind for, well, the next generation and what that means. And that's why I say it's hard to explain to people without no one's seen it, so I wouldn't want to give anything away. But there's a lot more to chew on from an intellectual story and character standpoint than those trailers stated. As a matter of fact, I would say in a way the trailers did a disservice in terms of just how much there is to really mull over in these seasons. And I think that's the thing that is most surprising about Picard season 3 is how emotional and absorbing from a character standpoint it really is. More so than Picard's 1 and 2 were put together.
Well, I think you said it best, Rob, when you said early on when the trailers first started coming out, hey, look, this is 2 minutes of a 10-hour movie. So,
right.
The trailer is such a small snippet of what's actually coming that, you can't base the entire your belief on whether it's going to be good or not based on what you saw. And so to some degree, I would just say that the trailer is barely even a wetting of the whistle. It barely touches on the beautiful elegance that Picard season 3 is. And listen, we've said Star Trek has not been good, guys. It's not been good.
No, it's been rough.
So it's been a tough road. But JP, let me ask you a question, because the Orville evangelist, everybody escaped to the Orville when it first came out, when Trek was like, I'm not digging this Discovery stuff. I'm going to go over to the Orville because now that's real Star Trek. How have you seen, because you're familiar with both franchises very deeply, how would you compare that movement to the Orville, and now that the Orville's gone, possibly coming back to a good Picard season 3?
Well, at the time when that happened, because I've been paying attention to the audience of both franchises for the last 5 years, every day, nonstop, just watching, just observing, doing that Q thing where he's just judging everybody. I like judging. I remember that very distinctly. I mean, the Orville came out. I just, on a whim, said, hey, I didn't even hear about the Orville. I just saw that there was a show called the Orville. I checked it out. I'm like, oh, this is giving me some Star Trek vibes. And then a week or two later, Discovery came out, which, of course, I knew was coming, but also I didn't pay too much attention. I just knew everybody was bitching about the ship. And I remember a lot of people came. I reviewed Discovery as well. I actually took a while with Discovery because I did watch like the first episode, was not feeling it. Right. And then once the entire series was done, then I went and watched that whole first season. Yeah. And I remember doing a video about it. I got really depressed watching the whole thing, like a binge watch. But I always promised that I would never judge an episode on what happened in the last episode. I would take it fresh and new each time. They just never really, gave me a fresh breath of air in that first season.
We tried every episode to be optimistic. Every episode.
Yeah. Well, I do that with every season of every Star Trek that I watch. So of the new stuff. So I find stuff that I like. I find stuff that I don't like. I never harp on the stuff that I don't like, because that conversation is going on everywhere, all over the internet. I'll try to find things that I like. I found some things that I liked in season 2 Discovery. I think I liked 2 episodes, both directed by Jonathan Frakes in that season. But even those 2 episodes, I'm like, I still would have done this or that. Season 3 actually ended up, I just like, F it, I'm going to go with it. If this story gets me, I'm going to go with it. So I enjoyed season 3, but it didn't excite me enough to actually watch season 4. So I haven't seen it. But the audiences, they came over to the Orville. And so for a while, though, it was a little rough because I was trying to do a little positive, we're going to have fun as a fandom type of thing with this new sci-fi show. So you get a lot of people that would come over, say, I really like the Orville, and then go off on a huge tangent on Discovery. I'm like, we're not here. But after, we're not here for that. We're trying to enjoy this thing, not talk about that thing. But after a few months, people started to get it. Like, we're going to go to a happy place and talk about sci-fi that we like. And so that kind of just faded away a little bit over the years. It still pops up every once in a while. And I'll allow it to stay in the comment section if it's truly a critical, something they thought about. But if it's just a hate on somebody,
if it's just vomit for no reason,
just vomit, I ban them from the channel. They don't even know it. Nobody even knows it. I'm just like, get out of my house. We're here to have a good time. But I'm looking forward to Picard season 3 quite a bit. I did not go into the first 2 seasons of Picard looking for a Star Trek. I heard it was going to be character driven. So I was like, I want to go in and get into the heads of these characters. And so those first 2 Picard seasons, I enjoyed it for that. But the adventures they were having, I didn't really care about the adventures. I don't even remember really what was happening. I don't remember the stories. I just remember some character moments.
Right.
Something I want to say to you guys, too, and I wanted to sort of stress this. I brought up the fact that Terry likes Hunt for Red October and Crimson Tide. Star Trek always had a military bent to it. The idea that the United Federation of Planets, the first season of Star Trek, there was UNESPA, there was the United Earth Space Probe Agency, there was Starfleet Command, then the Federation really came in the second season. And how all those bodies worked together was always kind of nebulous in the original series. But there was always that sense, the military adventure is a genre unto itself. If you go back to the submarine movies of like Run Silent, Run Deep, or, you talk about movies like Hunt for Red October, which is a globe-spanning multi-point of view nautical adventure. what I really love about, and I've missed this about Star Trek, and even in Discovery and Discovery and Strange New Worlds, I don't get the sense that these people ever were part of a military. They're just on a generic spaceship. I don't even think that I don't get a sense that the bridge crew on Discovery knows what the chain of command is. and I really don't feel that any of them went through Starfleet Academy.
They all think Michael's the captain, apparently.
Well, it makes sense, right?
Well, it's just one of the great things that Terry Matalas loves Hunt for Red October. I remember he told me that once. I'm like, oh, okay, I see that, because one of the great things about Hunt for Red October is when you have the military, you as a viewer understand all the stuff that comes along with that there is a chain of command, that there are different sections. There's an engineering section, and there's the bridge, and there's weapons, and you understand all of that. And what he brought back to this season was a sense of, dare I say it, nautical, but space nautical adventure.
Enterprise.
And it harks back to like episodes like Balance of Terror, from the original series. And of course, the battle from the end of Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, and the Mutara Nebula, when Spock says his pattern indicates two-dimensional thinking. And a lot of the time when you're watching modern science fiction, especially space battles, we call it the space lake, where it's like everyone's on the same plane. And space is the XYZ axis. It's not a plane, but it's hard. But even with these capital ships, the Reliant and the Enterprise fighting, it's almost as if they're like on the water. And I understand why they lean into those sort of things. But Terry brought back that nautical feel. You feel that these people are part of a pseudo-military, that there is a chain of command, there is discipline. These ships are large. They have many different crew members on them, and it feels like Star Trek.
Well,
and you notice when you first get on I guess I can talk about the first episode because it's reviewed, no spoilers, but they go onto a starship. Picard and Riker go onto a starship, and when they get on, this is one of the brilliant things. Like Terry, when you first go onto the Titan, you've seen it in the trailers. There's the whistle from Star Trek II, and I'm like, okay, we're in the hands of somebody that cared, that not only cares, went back and mined all of Star Trek. They didn't just read a cursory memory alpha.
I think apart from not liking straight men who are heroic, New Trek also hates military, anything that sounds like military. Yet, ironically, the only way a vessel like that would work is with a proper chain of command, without the person on the helm being snarky back to the captain. I would have tossed the person into the brig. There's a phenomenal episode on the Next Gen where I think it's Data and Worf, and Data dressing Worf down.
Yep.
It is so well scripted.
Data's in command of the Enterprise.
Correct.
Right. And Worf questions his command on the bridge. And takes him into the Reading Room.
Drags him off to have a chat with him. And you would never get a chat like that on New Trek because it would hurt someone's feelings.
Well, and you know why that happened? There's an explanation.
Let me continue. The other thing that they've lost, and I did this in a video, it's something I call gear porn. And the original Star Trek had the phaser, and like they were important. The phasers, the communicators, they actually did close-ups of them when they used them. They don't do close-ups of the gear porn in New Trek because they don't give a shit about their tools and how cool they are. And for they were all cool for me. I've got tricorders. I've got, shit around the house. And that was completely lost. These are subtle things, but if you add them all up, you realize that people have no joy for sci-fi and what makes it fun and interesting.
Right. The reason why this happened, and you're 100% right, Paul, because so when Brian Fuller, and Robert knows Brian Fuller pretty well, but when Brian Fuller first, was able to come into this and kind of take it over, you got to remember Brian Fuller was a guy who, he was a writer on Voyager. He really wanted to be on DS9. And one thing that Brian Fuller always thought was he kind of made Star Trek political. So he thought the conservatives really like the military aspect of Star Trek, and he thought liberals like the we all get along together diverse portion of it. So when Brian Fuller took it over, is there really any surprise that this went away from the military aspect of Star Trek and more towards the more liberal, hey, let's all get along and just, have fun on a starship?
What do you barbecue in my condo?
Paul, I wanted to point out something. The example that you gave when Data dresses Worf down, at the end of that sequence, Data makes his point, beautifully done, but Worf says, I'm paraphrasing, to the extent of, I'm sorry I've ruined our friendship. And it's Data who says, you have not. You've not ruined our friendship. We are friends. And it's people, Worf understood what he did was wrong. They had a conversation about it. Worf was afraid that their friendship was in the balance, and Data assured him it was not. And they went back to work.
Yep.
Yeah, one of the things that I really struggled with Star Trek Discovery was just the bridge crew themselves. They didn't seem like a cohesive team, and I wasn't interested in them because I didn't even know their names half the time. And I think it was in season 1, I think they killed off one of the main bridge crew, and I'm like, I didn't care about that episode because I had no idea who she was. She had never been part of a cohesive team on the bridge like you would see in Next Generation or in the OG Star Trek. Like, they're never together as a team on site working on problems. There's always Burnham going off and doing her own thing and like yelling at other people, and that really struggled. But I wanted to mention something that was brought up earlier, was about the fan reaction. Like, we've been burned too many times, now there's nothing you can do to redeem yourself. It's a very understandable way to think about things. I see it happen in Star Wars fandom and everything like that. But in my opinion, if you're going to make a bunch of noise online, if you're a voice in the online community about how much you hate something, when you're looking at these people who are producing it and they do something right, you have to equally make as much noise about the things that you love, because otherwise they have no way of knowing which way to point their compass. Like, oh, the fans really enjoyed this, let's stay away from this other stuff. If you just X them out completely, you're not going to get anywhere.
Well, there's an entire industry around hate tubing.
That's true.
I don't want to get into that. But
it's just my opinion. I don't want to get into it either. I just wanted to say, like, as a content creator and as somebody who talks about this stuff, if there's a franchise that I feel like has been mistreated, when they do something right, I feel like it's my responsibility to say that is what we want.
Yeah, sure.
I totally agree. Mike, what did I tell you when we went to lunch? I said, we got to be just as passionate about stuff we like than stuff we love. So if we hate something, we're passionate. Well, we got to be just as passionate when we love something. Because how else do you teach these people what you want?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I think 2 months ago I put out, and this goes back, and it's a whole conversation, like you said, but the click haters and the clickbaiters and all that is, I said 2 months ago, I put it out there that if Star Trek Picard Season 3 is amazing, people are going to try to figure out something to hate about it because it makes money. And I said that they're going to say it's too little, too late.
Well,
but anyone that's saying good stuff about it, they're not trying to get your click because you can't get your click.
Recently this just happened. I really enjoyed Andor, and I was like I couldn't find anybody to talk to about it. And as you all know, I'm Midnight's Edge After Dark guy. No one I think there was only one other person on the entire crew of, what is that? We're 9 people that are in regular rotation.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, as nerds, we're always going to find something we don't like. That was the beauty of nerddom for all of us. Being, whether we call ourselves geeks or nerds, the beauty is like, oh yeah, but they didn't get this doobie doobie dobby doobie doo right and doobie doobie da right, and a lot of that is the enjoyment of finding those little reverse nooks and crannies that aren't like the yummy.
I would say someone who is clear thinking, even if they didn't like Andor, they could very easily see why someone would. It's not an insult to like Andor.
Well, but
however,
the thing is that unless people
you
are
can't
open
like She-Hulk. I'm sorry.
Right, but I agree. But unless someone's open to seeing it, then there's nothing to talk about.
I've been giving good reviews to The Last of Us, and I'm getting pillared from people because, oh, wait till they start doing what's on disc, the second game.
Yeah.
I don't care about the second game. I'm watching the shows a show at a time, and I'm really.
I do have a
enjoying
question
it.
for those of you that have already seen this, though, and maybe it's a question. It's a question that's burning, and other people have asked me, and I don't know how to answer it, so I'm going to ask the people that would know. Which is that when we look back at season 3 of Picard, and we're looking at this season, is this something that's really anatomically connected to 1 and 2, or is this something that stands on its own and really has more of its genetic TV DNA to more next gen and all of the series and the movies that came before it?
The latter, it 100% stands on.
I think that's an important point that we
don't have to
start,
watch seasons 1 and 2.
I think we need to start talking about that in the public sphere a lot more.
Well, I also wanted to because I keep getting a lot of people say that, oh, we're not going to stop fighting until Kurtzman doesn't control the franchise anymore. But I would offer an alternative viewpoint to that. The fact that there is a company like Secret Hideout that has now produced Discovery, Strange New Worlds, Picard, Lower Decks, and Prodigy, and now Picard Season 3, the fact that there's a company that's making Star Trek is in itself a victory.
That's
now
true.
let's take out, you might not like what they've produced, but when somebody comes along like a Terry Matalas, like, look, he's got better things to do. If you've watched 12 Monkeys, it's an incredible show. I mean, if you like time travel and you were a fan of the original film, the 4 seasons of 12 Monkeys is a very well constructed, very well thought through science fiction television show. So when a guy like Terry Matalas is given the reins, like, look, to be fair, Alex Kurtzman went off and directed his sequel to The Man Who Fell to Earth. And then you had Akiva Goldsman went to go do Strange New Worlds. There was a void in who was going to then, and Michael Chabon left, who was going to produce Star Trek Picard Season 3. So Terry Matalas, an already experienced showrunner, a man who's written on a number of shows over the last 2 decades, and worked his way up from being a post-production intern on Deep Space Nine, was given an opportunity. He ran with it. And he brought in, he basically fired all the actors from Star Trek Picard Seasons 1 and 2 that he could, took the people he needed. He brought in a new composer that he'd work with. He brought in a new cinematographer, new effects people. He really made it his own. And while, yes, Secret Hideout still controls the franchise, they gave the franchise to a man like Terry Matalas to do with what he wanted.
Hands off.
And they were hands off. And when you see the show, there are things in it that I couldn't believe that he got away with that I don't think anybody, fans will know.
Yeah, same.
But the general population, the people at Secret Hideout, I'm sure if they watch the episodes wouldn't even notice. But fans are going to notice. The real hardcore fans, the guys over at like Trek Yards, they're going to be like, oh my God. And
Trek Yards guys are going to lose it.
They're going to lose their shit. So I would say that what we really want is, first of all, we have to have a company that can viably produce a show. But what we need is creators like Terry Matalas. So the success of, if Picard Season 3, and remember, all this is about is subscribers to Paramount Plus and analytics, viewers. If the show gets the views it needs, if there's a bump in ratings, people are going to look at Terry and go, and I know even Terry doesn't believe this, but the shows, because most people, Star Trek is old. It belongs to Gene Roddenberry. It belongs to 57 years ago. Mm-hmm. There are no new creators that want to. There's no great showrunner clamoring to come over and be like, I want Star Trek. You don't have Shonda Rhimes going, I've got an idea for a Star Trek show. Right. They want to create something new and original that they own wholeheartedly. A guy like Terry Matalas, though, he's your secret weapon, man. He'll come in and he'll make it his life's work to make the best season of Star Trek he can make.
Robert, I have a question for you. Do you think Terry is there because finally a Secret Hideout got browbeaten by the fans and the evidence of their bad output to finally change their ways, or do they not see what they've done?
I would like to say that's true, but I don't think that's the case.
Okay.
I think they needed somebody to do it, and they gave it to Terry. They know he could do it, But if you look at if you look at Star Trek Picard seasons 1 and 2, and again, I don't know this for a fact, they're very haphazardly written. And you'll notice, I want everybody, I hope when they watch Picard season 3, to take a close look at the characters and the themes that run through the entirety of all 10 episodes. When you get to the end of Picard, the 10th episode, you feel that you've gained something for yourself. Like all viewers, when you watch a story, you want to feel that some human truths have been illuminated.
Right.
That there's something in there that you can grasp a hold of, and that meant something. You know, I felt Picard seasons 1 and 2 are gobbledygook, but when I watched but I'll say this: any Star Trek fan, when they get to the end of episode 4, not only will you feel that you understand how a Starfleet crew should work, you will truly feel a sense of awe and wonder.
Well said.
One of my biggest problems was you could sense let's call it the arrogance of a group of people who felt they owned the keys to the castle, being in Toronto, and not Picard, but Disco and Strange New Worlds is produced here. I know a lot of people involved. I know technical people, and in the first year, 2 people got fired immediately for bringing up to the showrunner that what they were doing was not canon. They got taken aside and immediately fired.
Oh,
This is now I know of 2 people. I've heard others, but I'm not going to comment on that because that's now just hearsay. That's mean.
Yeah, don't let canon get in the way of a good story, right, Paul?
But it's not even the canon side. I'm just hoping the culture of the people who are doing Star Trek changes. And Terry obviously knows the culture side of it also, which is heartening.
There's something else
is the culture. Like that is the beginning of the change of the culture. So in our opinion, I don't think that Star Trek is going to change unless Terry continues doing Trek, because the problem is that right now the studio, they don't understand Star Trek. You know, Alex Kurtzman doesn't understand Star Trek. You know, he was not the mastermind behind this. You know, Robert Orsai was the guy who was a Star Trek fan.
By the way, you were at the premiere. Did you see Alex Kurtzman, aside from a cursory mention of Terry?
Nope. That
was he effusive in his praise of what Terry did?
Nope.
Yep.
He was very quick.
I don't get the inside joke.
He hasn't seen it.
No, this is just that Alex Kurtzman and Terry were at the front of the Chinese theater.
Okay.
Speaking, and Terry gave a very eloquent speech thanking everybody involved, and then he handed it over to Alex, and Alex did not, while he mentioned Terry, he was very quick to talk about everybody else. Oh. And I mean,
are you serious?
Yeah, and I just personally felt that Terry really he was Atlas on this one. He had the Star Trek universe on his shoulders.
He did,
and he did things that I don't think a lot of people would do in the course of making the show, and he busted his ass. And look, to be fair, I didn't know the guy 6 months ago. I was ripping on him on Twitter.
Yeah. Same.
You know, he made a comment about the Picard season 3 is going to be the send off that the Next Generation crew never got, and I'm like, oh really? You mean All Good Things wasn't a good enough send off for you? You know, and he wrote me back. He goes, I liked Free Enterprise. And I was like, "Oh man!" And then I wrote him back and I said, "Well, I liked 12 Monkeys, you know." And I met him, and that's how we started chatting. And then I saw him. This is the wildest thing. I mean, if you want to talk about metaphorical storytelling, I was going through the turnstile at the Hollywood Bowl to go into the John Williams concert, and there's a merch kiosk right there, and there I saw Terry Matalas with his son at the John Williams concert. And when I went over there, his son was wearing a T-shirt from a previous John Williams concert. That's awesome. You know, and I introduced myself, and we chatted, and that's I mean, the guy is a true believer. He's a huge Robotech fan. He owns a Back to the Future DeLorean. I mean, this guy is the real deal.
A
Gear
DeLorean
porn.
from Back to the Future.
I'm telling you, man.
Gear porn. I told you.
He's the man.
Jesus.
You know, and
Hey,
again,
quick super chat, guys. I'm sorry.
I didn't like him. I was ripping on him on Twitter.
So
Cutting
two
in
things real
on
quick.
this group is
Answer
so
Mexican
difficult.
Iron Man's question real quick because he never answered it. Is season one? Do you need to see seasons 1 and 2 to watch season 3?
No.
Real quick, Rob.
No. The only thing you really need to know about season 3 of Picard is that Riker and Deanna had a son who died, Thaddeus,
And that was expressed in season 1.
in the episode Nepenthe.
And I want to know, are there still women alcoholics in season 3?
let me tell you something. Terry made good use of that.
Yeah, well said. Well said.
But does Riker still make pizza? Everybody wants to know.
No one knows.
No one knows.
Rabbit pizza.
Now,
Rabbit
one
pizza.
question I have for everybody though, this season it's going to be amazing. You guys say it's going to be amazing. I believe you. Do you think this is a test? This third season is a test for the future of all the new Trek, because some of this new Trek has to go. They've done enough seasons. Maybe they're just too expensive to keep on. Paramount has a bunch of other shows people like, you know, Yellowstone and all that stuff.
Unfortunately, I don't think so. I think they think of this as a one-off.
Yeah.
This is a gimmick season.
And if body language is any indication of how the relationship between Kurtzman and Terry is, that if he does, assuming that this third season is amazing, you know, Hollywood has a very bad habit of not having humility and appreciation when it comes to another creator outperforming and out-delivering that which has come before.
Well, I
Except
think
for
I
Kurtzman
think
has a
they're proud of
history,
him.
though. Kurtzman has a history of listening to fans, though, when it comes to extreme outcry, because that's how we got Strange New Worlds.
Yeah, and I think more power to him. I mean, remember, it was Kurtzman who made the decision to put Terry in charge, and I think that's something you cannot forget. And look, these guys, they've got a million different things going on. If you can find somebody you can trust to take over a franchise, they still get to put their name on it. I mean, that's the galling thing, is to see wait till you watch the end credits and you're like, God.
Is it dropping all at once, or it's coming out weekly starting next Thursday?
Weekly.
coming out
Starting
weekly.
this Thursday.
And this super chat actually is really important. So, and because I think it touches on something that we're a little nervous about that I want Rob to talk about. Brian, can you read the super chat from Astro Nerd
From
Boy
Astro
Rambo?
Nerd Boy for $5. Thank you, Astro Nerd Boy. He says, I'm still going to wait until the entire season 3 is out before I watch. Is Picard season 3 canon to the original universe or the JJ verse? I've heard both.
And the question to Rob is this. So
you can answer this one.
Well, I want you to talk about the fact that we watched it all together. Okay. And so we have the
Me too.
so yeah, so you've seen it, the whole thing back to back to back. We've seen it
3
back
times, by the way.
There's a specialness about that scene back to back to back. Do you think there's going to be a detraction, or is there going to be some sort of difficulty with people having to wait each week to watch it?
Yeah, because you're going to want to watch the next episode right away.
Yeah.
I mean,
But that's always good for business.
Every episode of this season ends with like, wait, what? And I'm not saying it's a cliffhanger,
Right.
but let's call it an act break.
Right.
Yes.
That's super important in building the online community these days, is having those breaks in between. That's one of the reasons why Game of Thrones was so damn successful.
Yeah. The
Because
chapter break.
You had time for the fandom to get together and speculate on what's going to happen. I know it's not really going to apply to you guys because you've already seen it, but for people who haven't, that in between time, about a week, to make YouTube videos and to comment and to get
Oh my God,
talking, that's so important for the fandom.
I mean, Alex, we experienced that with Cobra Kai. I think too much dropped too fast.
Yeah,
there wasn't even time.
You talk about Cobra
right,
Kai
Alex?
you talk about Cobra Kai for like 2 weeks and then you never hear about it again.
Right. Yeah, that's so true. I love binge watching, but that's a good point. Like, in order to get traction on something, you need it to come out.
And same with Stranger Things. You see Stranger Things trending for 2-3 weeks and then it's gone. And then
I think
and the next year you forget everything that happened in the previous season.
Yeah.
This show, what's really interesting about Picard season 3 is it really feels like a 10-hour movie. It has a 3-act structure. Actually, a really defined 3-act structure. The first act is episodes 1 through 4. Act 2 is 5 through 8. And Act 3 is 9 and 10. And I think that, that's another reason I really admire the writing, because if I got hit by a bus after I saw episode 4 and shuffled off this mortal coil, I would feel, wow, I just watched a really satisfying Star Trek The Next Generation movie.
But what if it was after episode 2? No.
Well, that would be in the middle of, shenanigans. I would have many questions.
That'd be rough.
But yeah, but I think it's interesting. This question, Astro Nerdboy says, I'm still going to wait until the entire season 3 is out. I implore you not to do that, only because 1, the show needs the analytics, and 2, there are things that you're not going to want to have spoiled for you.
Right.
Every spoiler will be out the next day all over social media.
It's going to be like there's going to be hashtags.
And it's not just like big story revelations. There's little things. If you're a diehard Star Trek fan, there's little things. There's one joke, and it's not a joke, but there's little additions to canon that to Star Trek canon that sprinkled throughout, and it's pretty great. Especially if you're, I can't even say what it is. Never mind. There's just stuff that will bring many, like the Trek Yards guys, a lot of joy.
Oh yeah.
The Trek Yards guys. I can't wait to watch their videos after the show starts, because they're going to be losing it. I can just see Foley like this, just sweating. It's going to look like a sauna in that room. I guarantee it.
But is Picard season 3 canon to OG universe or JJ verse? So JJ verse, nothing in the TV shows are canon to the movies that JJ made, and that's a whole different topic. So
yeah, that's the Kelvin timeline, I believe, right? Yeah.
Canon is canon, and whether we like it or not. But no, this follows the traditional line of Star Trek TV shows from before.
Yeah, Paul, I want to ask you, I love the fact that as a former network executive, by the way, first of all, I love watching your videos.
Thank you.
And I when you came on the scene, I was like, where'd this guy come from? And I've loved to see the meteoric rise of your channel. But I would ask you, knowing how networks work, how do you think, like with Paramount Plus has now become the Taylor Sheridan network? And you don't see Star Trek getting nearly the love that all the Taylor Sheridan shows are getting, and he is like the Shonda Rhimes of Paramount Plus. Do you think that Star Trek could ever once again find itself in a pole position when it comes to the network?
Well, there's a couple things. Number one, success breeds success. Hollywood is very IO in that if things aren't working and it's costing too much, then they're going to get bored with it. It doesn't matter about the quality. The years of the era of Brandon Tartikoff, and you kids are too young. This is a guy who held on to shows like Cheers, which was 74 out of 77 in its first year in ratings, but he said, this is a sophisticated show, I'm keeping it. Yep. St. Elsewhere never went above 47, but it was one of the best series of all the time, up there with The Sopranos, as far as I'm concerned. Not quite Sandbaggers, but still pretty amazing. And so, the networks are capricious. They are personed by idiots, and they all have their own agendas. I have said before, when I was in LA, the most important thing was to be able to have other people to have lunch with. That was the biggest motivating thing. So, if you were rising up the ranks, then there were hangers-on who wanted to be with you, and if you took people to fancy places like the Mondrian or something, then they wanted to come with. So Hollywood has its own weird rules, some of which, it's amazing that anything gets done, because that's really not the thing that interests them most. It's getting the making sure they get their tennis right. And show business is kind of on, and Star Trek, it's being treated very, not worse, but similarly to Babylon 5.
Oh yeah.
Well, they only brought it back to try to start a streaming service to get into the streaming
So
world.
if you could get a streaming service where an individual really believes in this stuff, then that can happen. But
I just want to point out the super chat that came in from Jake Romaine. His comment wasn't there, but his comment's right below, and he says, "My girl and I are watching Deep Space Nine the first time for her, and on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it that we finish before Picard season 3? This is the first time trying a super chat." I only said I just want to point out he did try. So I always want to make sure people.
Jake,
that makes sense, Jack. Thank you.
Deep Space Nine got really good in the 3rd season.
Yeah, and by the way,
So did TNG.
I don't know, guys. How important is it you need to finish Deep Space Nine?
Oh, that is such a loaded question. The Paramount snipers are here.
You need to. I would say you need to have a really good working knowledge of Deep Space Nine, but I don't know if you need to finish it.
Well,
That's hard.
you
That's a
kind of
hard
need to
thing
know
do.
about season 7 a little bit.
Yes.
A little bit, maybe.
I think Jake Romaine is trying to get R&B over here killed by Terry Metalis.
No, I mean, I would say that all of Berman era Trek, TNG, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, not so much Enterprise, but is, although a little bit,
even a
is
little bit of
represented.
TOS, even a little bit of TOS,
And a little bit of God bless.
I know. God bless.
God
Yeah.
bless Terry Metalis.
You just remembered right now. It's so
I
beautiful.
never got the feeling, even during the TNG days, that the network was particularly thrilled having them. It's always Sci-Fi's always been a grudging,
Yeah.
thing. I mean, look to what's happened to the Sci-Fi network.
Oh, it's not even sci-fi anymore. It's
Well, that's my point.
SY. Yeah.
That's my point. So it's we always fight for these things because we really, really love them. So I hope that answers your question, Robert.
Yeah. I think the best advice is what Rob said. You got to really watch all of them. So TNG, Voyager, DS9.
By the way, the Dork Knight says, "What episodes of DS9 would you recommend? Seasons 2 through 7."
Yes. So
And don't forget the animated series.
So
too.
almost all of them. Quick super chat from Justin Baker for $20. Thank you, Jack. Justin,
Wow, 1999.
1999. The shows we watch and love to analyze are at the whim of shareholders. Yes, and that's why. And thank you for saying that, because that's why, if we make a big enough noise about the things we like, the shareholders hear about it, and the people in charge, the powers that be, have to listen to their shareholders. Yeah. I think a big reason why we got Strange New Worlds was because people made such a huge outcry over Pike. They lost it over Pike.
Yeah,
I think
Anson Mount did an amazing job as Pike. He was the only thing that was redeeming about that season of Discovery.
Yeah,
I
you're
agree.
right.
Or
And,
Strange New
It was
Worlds.
his hair. No. Anson was fine. It was the hair that was acting
Yeah.
really, really well.
I'm trying to mimic it myself right now.
You're good. I wish I could mimic that.
It's not that high.
You're gonna need more hairspray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Robert's got Anson Mount hair.
Every episode is hair.
Yeah, but I wish I had his crew of sexually ambiguous ladies on my
Yeah.
bridge.
You know what?
Same.
That is the way to-
Strange New Worlds.
Yes.
I kept screaming. Oh God, his second in charge.
Number
Romaine.
1. Yeah.
Number one.
Give her a
Rebecca.
fucking episode. Sorry for swearing. But I mean, my God, give her an episode.
How about the fact that the captain has a ship full of hotties, but his girlfriend's like somewhere else? Like, come on, bro.
No, but
It's the
they're-
23rd century, free love and all that. What's going on?
Yeah.
They're all non-binary.
No, that's
Well, that's right. They're all. Imagine what's happening in lower decks on Pike's Enterprise. Oh,
It's
that's what
a
I'm
mess
talking
down
about.
there.
bound chicka bound bound, right?
Oh, yeah, right.
No one
Yeah.
talks about non-binary hookers. That's what I.
Thanks, Paul.
Well, it doesn't matter whether it's Arcturian, baby.
That's
what I'm
true.
saying?
And demonetized.
Yeah.
Well, the
It's an
important
aliens
thing-
Yellow
reference.
check
That's
mark
all.
right there.
I'm referencing aliens.
right.
I'm thinking of the future.
Yes, aliens, not humans.
So back before we digressed a little bit there, Terry does want to make more Star Trek. This is something we know, and but right now he's not on the ticket for any new Star Trek. So if you guys like Picard season 3, we also have a video coming out tomorrow that you really need to watch. It goes into a lot of what Robert's been saying, a lot of what we've been saying, and we feel it's kind of a mic drop for what's been happening here and what's going on with Star Trek. So watch that, and then afterwards, we're going to give you an opportunity to show you how you can actually support Terry Matalas staying in Star Trek, doing more Star Trek, because we really need that going forward. If we lose him, there's nobody else. It's a vacuum. As Robert's been saying, we're going to continue getting the same shit we're getting with him not a part of it. So just, stay tuned. If you like it, we know it's hard to tell. You haven't seen it yet. If you like it, stay tuned with us because we're going to need to push to keep him doing more Star Trek.
I do want to point out it was reported in Deadline that Terry is now working for Disney, and they just produced the pilot for the Escape to Witch Mountain TV series that Bryce Dallas Howard is in.
I thought it was a sequel to Escape. I thought it was.
It's a. I don't quite know but it is. I mean, I'm a fan of that. I can't wait to see the Flying Winnebago and the inverted helicopter. I can't wait. I'm sure it's there. But he is doing that, so he is still working. He's over. How do they let him go to Disney?
Right.
Well, it's funny because they didn't. I mean, he had the opportunity to go right on to the next show, but there was this.
And Shane, Brian,
sci-fi angle. Disney's trying to get all that sci-fi.
But you guys, let me ask you this: when you get to the end of Picard season 3, don't you get the idea that maybe, perhaps, there's a direction that show points in that maybe viewers would like to head down?
Yes, 100%. I remember watching the last episode. I'm looking at Shane and like, this is what we're doing now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he teed it up for me. Made it easy.
It was perfect. It was a layup, dude. If they really do not continue with that perfect setup, I mean, they didn't watch it. Maybe they're making plans and they haven't watched it yet. Maybe that's it.
I think that's probably a good bet. I'm hoping Star Trek Final Frontier will be the new show.
I mean, this all speaks.
That'd be a great name.
What you're talking about now all speaks to the analytics, so that's why the analytics have to be there.
That's you're exactly right.
Because
everybody watch.
If he's moved on here, and there's no, and I'm hearing three things. I'm hearing that the way it's going to end opens up an entree for something maybe else that also could be amazing.
Yeah.
I'm also hearing that you're telling me that he's gone on a different direction, and then I'm hearing that the way it was on the red carpet. Well then, if you want good Trek, it's like anything else in life. The market must speak, and consumer demand and analytics must carry the day.
And that's the only thing. I mean, that's why when you go on social media, hashtag Picard season 3, watch the show, tell your friends.
Starts on the 16th, right?
Yeah, Thursday.
If it gets the response that you guys are hoping for, it's going to be something entirely new for Paramount.
Yeah,
Star Trek franchise, and I think that they're going to be making some plans alongside that reaction. And word of mouth is really going to, I think, blow up the subscription packages for them.
I don't think they know what good is.
I mean, that's entirely possible.
And on that note, I want to thank Alex for coming because I know he has to get out of here. Alex, I know you didn't get to say enough, but the things you said were wonderful. We hope we can get you back on one of these next time.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
Quick end to our poll, and I'll let Alex.
One more thing too for Alex. What do you guys got coming up for Salty Nerd Podcast?
Oh, geez. We're dipping our toes in the Indian cinema market right now. We're doing there's a Disney Plus movie coming out. It's called Brahmastra, I believe is how you say it.
Oh yeah, dude, you're covering that. That's awesome.
Yeah. So we've kind of come to a revelation lately that international cinema is where it's at. Like stuff coming out of South Korea, Japan, India is on point.
RRR.
Like very entertaining. RRR, yeah. So we're kind of like in between doing 80s and 90s nostalgia movies. We're dipping our toe in the international market for movies, because we want to bring more people to that because there's so much entertaining stuff out there.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But if I can, real quick, before I head out, I just wanted to thank everybody for having me on tonight. Robert, Meyer, Burnett, I look up to you like crazy, and I never thought I'd be on a live stream with you, so thank you so much.
Well, I'm sorry that I talk too much. Hey, come on my channel anytime. I'd love to have you.
Wonderful.
And if you're going to talk international cinema, that's where I live. So come on over.
Excellent.
And if you want to talk, you know what comes out on DVD tomorrow or Blu-ray? Decision to Leave. Park Chan-wook's Decision to Leave from Korea. One of my favorite movies of last year. You should check it out.
I definitely will. And Brian and Shane, thank you so much for having me on, guys. And if I can, you guys are club members, so I wanted to take this opportunity to offer an invite. We're doing like Mystery Theater 3000 live commentaries on original Star Trek on our club members area. And we have the studio that'll be built and ready. By the time you guys are ready to come out here, we'd love to record with you.
I will 100% do that.
Absolutely.
Right
Thanks, Alex.
No problem. All right, guys. Have a great night. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
And before we go to the next topic, I did want to address the poll. I try to put out a poll for every topic, and looks like we got 47 votes for Are You Planning to Watch Picard Season 3 this week? And 83% said yes, 15% said hell no, and 2% said maybe. Those maybes are confusing to me, to be honest.
They will.
Yeah, that
Even
means
ones
yes.
that say hell no, they will. They'll be
Right,
there.
yeah.
That's what the network thinks too. Like they'll watch. Don't worry, they'll watch.
Yeah,
Even
they'll watch.
like with YouTube, people are like, "Oh, thumbs down, thumbs up." I'm like, it don't matter. They're both equal, the exact same thing. They're interactions.
Yeah. When it comes to YouTube, whether you thumbs up or thumbs down,
It's the same.
interaction. Yeah, YouTube
It's
just
all
sees it
good.
as someone talking to you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I had a question for you, Mexican Iron Man.
Yes, sir.
So there's this dichotomy between the people that really
said that.
hate Star Trek to the point of, they've been rug pulled twice now, or, on Picard seasons 1 and 2, and you're really tight with people who struggle with it. Can you give us like kind of the feeling, like, do you think these people can be redeemed back to Star Trek, or do you think
Well,
it's
I
all
am that person. I am that person. I mean, I literally, half of me is repulsed and wants to boycott and let my boycott mentality think that that's going to somehow get Paramount to change. But then there's this little boy inside me that can't deny that Star Trek is in my DNA. I would not be the man I am if not for Star Trek. I mean, there are things I do literally on any given week that come from something DS9. I mean, it's, original series, something. And all I have to do is I just have to go back to basic market demand. I'm going to go back to what Paul Chato said, is that, like Paul, I don't believe that these networks, I've seen their decision making in Hollywood. They aren't the type to where they'll, if you turn them off, they create their own stories in their head. And the only thing that's gonna get us what we want is if we don't watch what we hate and it sucks, and we let them know that, and then we do get what we want and validate that. And if it's good. Whatever that is. And so I am that person. You are looking at me. I am a house divided in and of myself. But you know what? I have to go back to, this is what I do, but I have to go back to say, I love sci-fi. Sci-fi is my number one of all the genres that are out there, more than sword and sorcery, more than fantasy. The list goes on and on. I'm a sci-fi guy. And at my basic root, I want to love more than I want to hate on any given day of my life. And so if there's something that I can love, then I'm going to latch onto it and I'm going to like it. I will tell you this. I am really glad that when I saw Andor, I saw it in a batch and I didn't have to watch it week to week to week to week, because the way that show played out is it didn't play with that sort of episode ending. Oh, what comes next? It was more like, well, what are they going to do next? And so I was glad to hear from, I guess, Robert. I can't remember who said that, Robert Brand, but someone said that, when it ends, you're like, okay, what comes next? That's the feeling that I get now that I'm watching Yellowstone. I just did a deep dive and I watched, good God, 5 seasons of Yellowstone in 11 days while I was driving around. In fact, Brian, when I was driving to see you for like, I just started binging it, and I watched it all in like 11 days. So I am that person. All I can say is that, look, if it's good, if it's good, then you got to watch it, and you got to tell other people about it. That's how I feel, because I've learned too much from other genres that if you don't reward what's good, we're just going to get more bad.
You know what's ironic about the Star Trek franchise?
What do you think about what I just said, Rob or Shane?
Well, I was going to say I love what you just said, because I think that I honestly believe, and I'm an optimist, fans want to love.
Yes.
That's what we want. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've been fans all this time, and we became fans because we love stuff. Mm-hmm. And what's funny is all of the things we love have bonded us together. If you were to ask people, like, what are your favorite movies from the 80s? I would imagine that 95% of the things we all say are the same.
True.
And we are the same tribe. And I think what's happened is a lot of the things that we love are now controlled by corporations. And what I wanted to point out about Star Trek is, first of all, ironically, this is the best time in all of human history that great Star Trek can exist. And it's ironic that everybody who's trying to make Star Trek, at least for the last 14 years, has tried to turn it into something else. Star Trek was always a secular, humanist, allegorical action-adventure science fiction story. It was progressive but it didn't make you know it was progressive.
Right.
You know, it gave you the action adventure, and the messages were embedded in the story if you cared to look. But now it's not that anymore, and yet Star Trek should be the franchise that's at the forefront of the time that we live in now. And the allegory has left from Star Trek. You know, it's like, let's just have our non-binary character tell a gay man, you need to use my personal pronouns, which actually happened in an episode of Discovery.
Yes, it did.
And I was stunned by this when you have characters in Star Trek like the Trills, who are binary, transgendered, a transgendered joined species who are both men and women, and they've been both genders throughout the centuries that they've lived. This is already in Star Trek. You know, they kind of try to delve into this a little bit in Discovery, but you know, the very first time when you meet the Trill, it's in an episode where there's a diplomat named Odan, and he falls in love with Beverly Crusher, and his human host gets killed, and the symbiote gets placed into the body of a woman. And Odan comes back to Beverly and says, you know, in the body of a woman, we can continue with our love affair. And she's like, I'm sorry, I can't. Like, basically she's saying I'm straight. Right. And even though you're you, I can't. Now, when that episode came out, that was really audacious. Mm-hmm. Now, people would go back and say, well, it wasn't audacious enough. And I'm like, come on, man. Television from 87 and 94 was a little different back then. And the episode, The Outcast, where Riker falls in love with a member of a genderless species, the first Soran, and then she's literally, or they are literally sent off they're to a re-education camp. This was heady stuff, especially when it came out. And now all of the allegory that allowed Trek to be as advanced as it was, Star Trek is about a universe where we have alien intermarriages, you know, where you have people. Amanda Grayson was married to an alien in 1968. And I mean, this, you want to talk about progress? In 1968 in Star Trek, you had humans marrying a different species. And now we've reverted back to the most basic, ridiculously non-intellectual storytelling.
Well, not just that. This is the future. All these things were solved in Star Trek.
Yes.
So why are you bringing your modern bullshit into, or at least show it differently,
or allegorically,
right. And
it should be,
you know,
they didn't like sci-fi. They're, you know, we all talked about the virtue signaling and blah 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 blah. I mean, it's absolutely tiresome. They just didn't know how to write Star Trek. That's it.
I'll tell you what's brilliant about Star Trek Picard Season 3. You have characters that are all older. They have regrets. Mm-hmm. They've made mistakes. And this show deals with those things. In the first episode of Picard Season 3, Riker comes to meet Picard. And part of the reason he does that is to get away from Deanna and his daughter, because he can't deal with the emotions.
Right.
And it doesn't, and I don't want to make this sound like it's not like Ordinary People, the movie. People are like, what? It's a movie. It's Mary Tyler Moore's in it. But
great movie.
It's a great movie. There's an emotional part of Star Trek Picard Season 3 that I think a lot of people, I really respected it being my age now. If I was like 25, maybe not so much. But now there is a maturity to the writing in Star Trek Picard Season 3 that I think might be overlooked by much of the fan base, because it deals with subjects that Star Trek hasn't necessarily delved into on over 10 episodes the way it does.
Well, one thing that does concern me is that I don't know. I mean, it's up to in the hands of someone who is passionate about it can continue this. Star Trek. It'd be great to have it in the hands of a young person who totally understands it and can take it someplace else. To me, it was really refreshing to see The Expanse, because it was new.
So good.
and it was good. And I went, you know what? I could see this becoming. I could have seen this. This could have been Star Trek.
Totally.
And because they got so many things right about it, and it was. But bottom line is, we need more. Along with keeping Star Trek going, we need more new science fiction.
I totally. Paul, the great thing about The Expanse, that's one of the most inclusive, racially diverse casts, and no one says a word because that's what the future would be.
It was also ethnically diverse.
That's what I mean.
No, but it was So Star Trek was fixated on two things: racial and sex and gender.
Oh, right.
Expanse included ethnicity.
Yes.
I make the argument that, a Spanish person, a Finnish person, a German person, they are all ethnically different. But Hollywood doesn't get that. They go, well, no, the Finn and the German, they're white. No, they're ethnically different. And The Expanse got that right.
Everybody, it was like the original Star Trek.
Yes.
No one ever said anything. It was now the new ethnicity was the Belters.
Correct.
The people that were built in space, and all the different human ethnicities didn't matter.
Nope.
Because we had all become mixed. We were all beautifully mixed. And then it's like the Belters hated the Martians and the Earth. It was, I love the fact that one of the main characters was from New Zealand. I don't know if she was Maori or not, but I loved her. Bobby,
that's what good writing does, though.
They had great tech porn in it.
Oh, it had so much tech porn. Whenever they would have to decelerate and get it was great. Oh, you're decelerating again? Yeah. Let me get in my chair.
Yeah, I loved all the gravity stuff in The Expanse. You shoot somebody and all of a sudden they're just floating there.
Oh, yeah, and you had a lead character that was slowly deteriorating and had to secretly, get themselves, charged back up, but it would just not last as long, and it was great. And then I think it was the Russian woman from the Belters. Anyway, I don't want to talk about The Expanse, but I think Star Trek's health also requires the health of sci-fi.
I agree. Right. I would love to see a young created Star Trek. I just don't know if that's possible.
I think they're there.
Well, Terry, the problem is Terry is at the bottom of the barrel, so to speak. So you got Manny Coto, who did the 4th season of Enterprise, and he had the DNA for Star Trek. And Terry has the DNA for Star Trek, and of course Brandon Braga, who was messing over on the Orville recently, he probably still has the DNA. But I can't think of anybody outside those three. Rob, I don't know if you think it's somebody else that could actually come and do something for Star Trek.
But I think you need to find a 30-year-old creator, but the problem is I don't know if Star Trek's DNA comes from the Camelot spirit of the Kennedy White House of the early 60s, and it was created by the greatest generation, people that fought in World War II and all of those kinds of things. And I don't know, I've always thought that Star Trek was a niche thing anyway, as a fanatical Star Trek fan when I was a kid. But
it requires a certain optimism of spirit, of heart, and mind in many ways, and that's very unique and different with respect to a lot of sci-fi stories.
It's also elitist.
It is,
because one of the things I always loved about Star Trek as a kid is that these are the best of the best. They are the top 1% of human beings. You have to be, otherwise the final frontier will kill you. And what I loved is McCoy, Spock, and Kirk represented. They were the best of the best, but they also knew they didn't know everything, and their disciplines were all appreciated. Their knowledge was all appreciated. And I'll tell you something, one of the greatest pieces of television writing ever is in the episode Balance of Terror, which is surprising that Strange New Worlds ripped it off and badly. They revisited it in its final episode.
I didn't even recognize it.
It was
awful.
I'm ashamed.
They completely missed the point. And you can see that in the way they portrayed the Romulans. It was like, oh my God, you guys didn't even get this episode. But, Kirk says, and it's an amazing, it's a single shot. Camera's low angle. It's looking up at Kirk, and McCoy's leaning against the his cabin door, and Kirk says, "Why me? You know, why am I put in this decision? Whether my decision, we're either going to go to war, or I'm going to be able to take out this Romulan ship before it crosses the neutral zone and home." And McCoy gives a speech. He goes, in this galaxy, there's a mathematical probability of, 1 million stars and 1 million Earth-type planets or something. I'm paraphrasing. But in all of that, and a million galaxies like this one.
Right.
And in all of that, and perhaps more, there's only one of each of us, which is a sentiment that Dr. Manhattan later shared in The Watchmen.
Yeah, it's super
and
rad.
then McCoy says, "Don't destroy the one named Kirk." It's an amazing moment, and DeForest Kelley's amazing, and that's what Star Trek is. And Star Trek Picard Season 3 has more of that than the Star Trek we've seen since 2017.
Yeah, I agree.
Amen. Well
Hey,
said.
quick, we got a super chat from Badger Johnson. The problem is we don't know if it's good until we watch it, and by then they have our money and our view, so I'm inclined to watch. Before you go off on that,
Not to watch.
Not to watch.
sorry, inclined not to watch, but before you go off on that, Rob and Shane, remember, you can watch it for free with the promo code Picard for a month. So you don't got to give them any money.
But you know what? I think Terry's worth $10.
I think so.
What is
too.
it? What does Paramount Plus cost for 10 weeks?
$7.99, I think.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
I
a
watch
month,
it
yeah.
on Crave up here.
Right.
Well, and so if you're inclined not to watch, but let's just say this, Badger. I don't know if you follow along with us and our opinions. Star Trek's been pretty crappy since Discovery came out, and we're telling you that this is the best it's been in more than 20 years. So if you believe in what we're saying, then throw your $7.99 out there and give it to Paramount Plus, and I don't think you'll be disappointed.
I was actually shocked at how good, I don't know what you think, Robert, but how shocked Star Trek Continues was.
Okay. Star Trek fan films.
Yeah, but as a fan film, I thought its brilliance was that it kept the look of the original show, didn't try to update anything.
I
enjoyed it a lot.
I think Star Trek Continues is the high water mark of Star Trek fan films.
Yeah.
And when the writing was great, like the second episode, Lorelei with the Orion slave girl that Lou Ferrigno was in.
Yeah.
That's a great episode. Here There Be Dragons, I think, is a great episode. The 2-part climax that led into the motion picture that revisited Where No One Has Gone Before, the Star Trek pilot. There was a lot of, when the writing was good, I thought it was absolutely exemplary. I really did.
It was good on them for the tiny budget that they.
Yeah, no, I think they did a really good job. Again, it lives and dies with the production, and it's really the writing and the acting. But that was, they did a great job. And kudos to them because they put out all their episodes. They got them done.
I got a TOS backdrop right now.
Yeah, it's no, but they did a good job, and it also, what? Here's the thing, it also showed the viability of the design of you could have recreated the original series sets, maybe changed the buttons, the jelly bean buttons on the, you could have kept the original series sets and just lit them differently and shot them with a different aspect ratio, and it all would have worked. So, and this idea, these giant sets with all this wasted space in a starship, I don't believe it. Why is the bridge so huge?
But these are not art-directed shows. It drives me nuts. What's beautiful about us is how the lighting, apart from the flimsy fake star maps that were on cellophane and they would wobble. Apart from that, I mean, and Star Trek even has this wonderful direction language where you had people placed, in depth on the camera. I mean, I do that for my comedy directing. I use Star Trek directing actually when I place people. And the other show that had phenomenal art direction was The Prisoner. And you've got to appreciate the.
He's wearing
Oh my God!
I thought that was because
You guys need a bit of room.
No. Complete. I didn't see your shirt. Did not see your shirt. So, and I was an original viewer of both those shows, and I was young enough to go, "Oh my God, I'm watching every episode of Star Trek." The Prisoner, I couldn't quite understand. I had to watch it multiple times because I thought it was Danger Man on acid, and
it is.
It is basically.
It
Yeah,
is Danger Man. It's exactly what it is.
Danger Man on acid. But that was my problem with Disco, is that it had a herein look that you could go, I want to copy that and use it someplace else. It was just, a giant barn.
Well, the thing is, that's another thing. I don't believe the production design of Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah.
And I don't believe anything about it. And while, Terry inherited certain sets, what he did was, bringing back the art like Drexler and Mike Akuda to do the L-Cars stuff. I mean, I really love what the bridge of the Titan A looks like in terms of, it still's a little wide and all that, but it feels like you're watching a Star Trek movie, and I think Dave Blass worked very hard, and they did a lot. Because Terry wanted that nautical feel, to come back to the show.
When they killed it with the ship scenes. So when you guys see the ships, they're done in this movie style quality. They look like models.
They're capital ships. Whether they're big or not, the idea is that you're supposed to feel that they're big.
Right.
And Star Trek II, the battle between the Reliant and the Enterprise, the Mutara Nebula, is the apex or the pinnacle of that idea, with these capital ships that have cannons. That was Star Trek, and the idea that ships are zinging around like I can't even. Because even though they might, because you're in space and zero gravity and Starfleet or Starship Combat, you still have to pretend. But use the X, Y, and Z axis.
But there is such a thing as momentum that exists in space. I'm just glad they never use depth charges.
This isn't Star Wars. What are you talking about?
Hey, real quick, guys. There's a super chat from Atheists for the Cause. Are writers, directors, producers being created in the same extent as they used to be? It seems like there's a lot less talent available to me.
Well,
it's a sign of the times, though. I think that.
What do we say about people who are unread?
On the Orville, the producers have a big job. Brandon Braga, Andre Bormanis. They're there every day. They've written a ton of episodes together. David A. Goodman. They're all there every day. So I don't know what other shows are doing.
Well, I think though too. Last night I've been having a film festival here for my girlfriend's parents, and last night I showed them The Man Who Would Be King, directed by John Huston.
Great movie.
And I'm trying to show them things that they hadn't seen. And I always try and show them some special features. And John Huston tried to get The Man Who Would Be King made for 20 years. And, John Huston, Maltese Falcon, Treasure of Sierra Madre. He was a visionary. These are people that are true talents. I think a lot of the people now are journeymen. We have very few real auteurs left. And part of the reason, especially in movies, is you're not allowed to do that. You didn't get to make 4 or 5 independent movies. You make one good. Colin Trevorrow made Safety Not Guaranteed, $1 million movie, and then his next movie was Jurassic World.
Oh, geez.
And how do you become a great filmmaker? And in this day and age, when that's the case,
and you're talking about not paying your dues correctly.
Yeah. You have to, and with TV, TV was never an auteurist medium. TV is really the crew's medium. It's the first AD's medium, and it's the writers. TV is a writer's, executive producers, showrunners medium. You can speak to that, Paul.
Yep.
And when you're actually on, I've only directed 5 episodes of TV in my life, and I had scripts that were given to me. And while what was fun was creatively working in the confines of the parameters that I was given. And there's ways to be creative by using the tools that you're given. You know, a TV series has a look, it has a feel that's already been well established. However, if you use that to your advantage creatively, you can do, you know, it's like when Rian Johnson comes in and directs the Fly episode of Breaking Bad.
Right.
If you remember that episode, that's when somebody can come in and do something really unique and interesting, and within the parameters of a show. But I think one of the problems with the industry now is that people don't have the background, and they didn't work. I think everybody should work their way up from PA. You should, everybody who works, whether you're an executive producer or not, I think everybody in the industry should have an experience working as a production assistant for a couple of years and see the workings of production. Even if you're a talent agent, most agents and the people that are brokering deals for their talent don't know anything about the actual day-to-day life of what a production is.
True. Yeah.
And it's insane.
Well said.
So I also think they're moving writers up too fast too. I mean,
Yep.
Metcalf, Stan Daniels, Stan created Taxi. You have how long he worked out episode, and then how many Mary Tyler Moore episodes he wrote before he was then showrun an episode. I mean, and you were working with the best team planet in MTM, and his takeoff was very slow and gentle, and they didn't just throw them into the deep end.
No. Look at the Rings of Power showrunners. Look at those guys. They literally had done a little bit of treatment on a movie, and now they're running an entire
writing anything.
Right. Now they're doing the biggest show on the planet, and they've done nothing before that. So you're right, Paul. I think you're right. We're gonna need to move on, but,
I know.
Sorry. No. It's okay. I just want to go ahead, Paul.
I was just gonna say I read a biography of Graham Greene, a gentleman who wrote some of the best short stories on the planet. You know, Cuba. Oh, I can't remember the name. But anyways, just phenomenal short stories that a lot of them became movies. And when he came to Hollywood to write scripts, they asked him to learn to write scripts. Graham Greene, one of the greatest novelists of his era, they forced him to learn how to write screenplays before he was allowed to write them. I mean, we don't have that anymore.
We don't have that.
I'm beating a dead horse.
We have AI.
Yeah, super chat from Joe Cronin. I'll let you go, Shane. So many great people on tonight. Shout out to R&B for the great bonus features on Trek, TNG, and Enterprise. Woo! Waiting for Picard. Season 3 is killing me.
Thank you. That's very nice. I mean, for those of you who don't know, we did 15 Star Trek Blu-ray sets. We did the full series of TNG, the full series of Enterprise, and then we did the 5 individual discs of 2-hour episodes from Best of Both Worlds on. And it was for 3 years I worked for CBS on Star Trek. It was the greatest thing ever.
And newsflash, that's what got me to love R&B and become a fan, because I got those as a gift. And I was never a TNG fan at all. I went straight to DS9. I was one of those like, no, it's not the original series. I'm not going to watch this new crap. No way. The ship looks weird. Many years later, I watched those bonus interviews, and man, R&B, what an amazing job. And I've seen every episode, 5-6 times.
I give all the credit in the world. There's an executive who no longer works with CBS named Ken Ross, who was somebody I admired. He was there at the dawn of the home video industry with Andre Blay and Magnetic Video, the very first home video company. And to work for him, it's funny because I called him Big Daddy Ken, like the Tony Sopranos of network executives. He was instrumental in getting Star Trek, the original series, and the Next Generation remastered into high def. And if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have got the cast for Next Generation. And, I wouldn't have gone to Calgary and sat down with them for the 25th anniversary and hosted. You can watch on the second season TNG disc, but I'm the on-camera host of a 25th anniversary reunion with all the Next Generation cast. And it was one of the highlights of my life.
It's awesome.
So shout out to Ken Ross.
Yeah, if you guys haven't seen that, you need to check it out because Rob's really made some great stuff out there.
Yeah.
Okay, so also we missed a $10 super chat from the Salty Nerd podcast from Alex on his way out. Sent that over to us. Thank you so much, guys. Go check out the Salty Nerd podcast. They have some really great content. When you guys get a chance, we'll put the link down below.
Yes, links are in the description.
We want to move on a little bit, unless anybody else has anything to say about Star Trek, really quick.
Are you
Remember
asking
that
Rob
one
if
time?
if he has something else to say about Star Trek?
I mean, in case
We'll be
somebody
here until tomorrow.
be there Thursday. Listen,
That was funny,
once
Brian.
it starts, we won't get to say this stuff. So, let's move on to this next one. Okay. So listen, guys, a worldwide balloon UFO epidemic is apparently happening with multiple countries now claiming that they are shooting down balloons / unidentified flying objects. The U.S. military shot down at least 3 unidentified objects over the weekend after a Chinese spy balloon that had invaded American airspace was down February 4th. At this point, it is unclear what the objects were, their purpose, or who sent them, but one was identified as a cylindrical in shape and the other an octagon. One object was the size of a small car after being shot down, was not likely a balloon. According to White House spokesman John Kirby, who, by the way, was my boss when I was in the Navy, he said these objects seemed to have no source of propulsion or maneuvering, and that they were shot down because they flew lower than the Chinese spy balloon and posed a risk to civilian air traffic. Now, some F-22 pilots who interacted with the objects over Alaska said that it interfered with their sensors, and that one of the objects actually claimed to have no identifiable propulsion and could not explain how it had stayed in the air. Now, China has alleged that the U.S. has flown more than 10 high-altitude balloons over its airspace in the past year. China's balloon was so huge, it was the size of 3 buses. When the U.S. and Canada adjusted their radars to look for smaller objects, they found these ones and shot them down over the weekend. A general is now not ruling out extraterrestrials. So, God, what the hell is going on?
How many pieces of bubble gum would it take to make a balloon that big? This all sounds like a prank by Pennywise to me.
I mean, this is crazy right now. Paul, you're in Canada, right?
Yes.
Now, how often do you let another country shoot down stuff in your airspace? Is that not weird?
We don't know anything. We let anybody do anything they want in our airspace.
I'm sure they're friendly. Yep.
Our military is comprised of 3 guys at Tim Hortons Donuts.
I mean, but this is really, for a second there, it's I mean, we're shooting down a bunch of balloons. Now, apparently this has been happening all over the world. We have, I think, they said like 40 different countries have had balloons sent over the top of them. Are you guys?
They wrecked two kids' parties in Dusseldorf.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, they've gone totally nuts.
Who here believes in UFOs, like actual ET UFOs? Okay, Mexican Iron Man, nice.
No. Yeah, come on. Who doesn't believe in aliens?
I've seen 2 in
I
my
believe in the possibility.
As Jodie Foster said in Contact, it'd be an awful waste of space.
I mean, stats don't lie. There has to be some kind of aliens. The question is not whether they exist; it's whether they've been here. I think.
Are there bacteria in other parts of the universe? Yes. Are there sentient beings similar to us? No.
So how many of you guys think that it's a government conspiracy trying to get us mad at China?
Yeah. I'm in.
That's probably what I love about YouTubers.
That's probably it.
I stopped believing the government had my best interest years ago. I used to be one of those. The government would never lie to me. I'm an American.
And then he was coming back from Tijuana, and they told him.
Wait a minute. What does your passport say?
That's what
I am less concerned about the initial lie than the lie to cover up the fact that they were lying.
Right.
I have a harder time with that part of the equation. Drives me nuts. Just admit it and move on.
And the lie was so crazy.
They tie themselves into knots to not admit that they blew it.
Right.
Yeah. I think somebody's just trying to Battlestar Galactica us. It's like we got all this fancy equipment. They're like, let's go back a few decades. Let's just put a balloon out there. They won't even notice it.
Well,
it's not fancy.
they're checking out our capabilities.
Right. It's just we have all these like high tech gadgets, and they're like,
Well,
throw a balloon.
before this show, though,
putting
I
us
was
down.
I was listening to a guy on NPR as I was driving. Some people might say that was my problem, but I was listening to a story about how a guy was explaining our capabilities. Like NORAD is old, and the thing is, what NORAD is, what they do is if they see a launch or something that they can actually track, they'll follow it. The problem is they can't track the launch of a balloon. So they don't necessarily, they're not looking for them. Mm-hmm. And, it's like Mr. Trudeau, your own prime minister, asked the Americans to shoot down this thing. And I mean, look, here's what is depressing to me as a Star Trek fan. The Russians are going to step up there for a year. They thought they would step over Ukraine in 3 days. It's been a year. All they're doing is killing a civilian population.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's
Yep,
it.
exactly.
And it's a land grab. Who's going to be left? The Russians have lost over 200,000 lives. We lost 56,000 in Vietnam over 10 years. And
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, why? I get it, but I mean, in this day and age, what are you trying to accomplish? And of course, because there's the possibility of nuclear deterrent. I mean, all these despots and as America, we want collectivism and all that. Really? Is that what you want? When has that ever worked? The human spirit, the individual being able to be who and what they are. That's I think the goal of all people. It's so depressing.
I think the Americans are just trying to get a diverse, inclusive, and equitable force together, properly trained, with a diversity officer in the lead,
right?
And they're going to make sure that only diverse Russians are shot.
Yeah, to paraphrase a favorite, there are no diverse people in foxholes.
No,
right? No. I saw a hilarious meme the other day. It's like, if you want to avoid getting redrafted, like so in the military, you can get a stop contract to like stay in the military. All you got to do is just tell your commanding officer that you only believe in two genders, and he'll kick you out right away.
Really?
That's what they said. Yeah.
Oh, is that
Wow.
The American military has more opportunity and more incentive to join than ever before, and they're having a problem recruiting people.
Yes, I saw that too.
I mean, they are willing more than ever. We have a recruitment crisis because American kids are, and pardon my French, they're too fucking fat. Can I say that?
Yeah. Rob, you're fat shaming. Rob
pass the
Burnett is
taste
fat
Hey,
shaming.
I'm not fat shaming. I'm just saying you're too fucking fat to join the military.
right.
And
You gotta be on a certain weight and body fat. Okay.
I mean,
know.
how about the fact that
sweating just to get in?
I mean, the human body is a machine. It's a biological machine. It's a machine. And like all machines, there's an optimal way it can work.
Right.
And you have to take care of it and feed it properly, and it will work for you. And the military, by necessity, needs the most functional human machines it can find. and now we can't find the recruits. And it's like here's a Star Trek future. You know the thing about the Enterprise, the most out of shape person was William Shatner in the 3rd season of Star Trek. That was it. The people
Even
on Star
Scotty
Trek
was fit back then.
Yes, and the reason why people fat shame, because you're gonna die. And I mean, it's I don't understand it. I don't understand why the reality of our lives. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging reality.
Well, what was
The report that came out also mentioned the second problem they have with recruitment is that the recruits and the recruiting process, when it comes time to sign, they're overly concerned with, well, is anything going to happen to me? How safe is this? That's true. I read this article that Rob's talking about. It was the report on the recruiting problems, and Rob's absolutely 100% right. That was problem number 1, and then problem number 2 was safety concerns.
And number 3 was, is there Wi-Fi?
It's your Wi-Fi. No, yeah. In the California recruitment Instagram, like I follow the Instagram because my buddy's still in the military. So the Army Instagram account for like the recruitment agency, they posted a picture of a guy, and you can find it, a guy in like spinning one of those signs on the street in California. And he's like, we approached this guy and offer him $30,000 and a 4-year contract. If he would sign up right now, it's 107 degrees of that guy outside. And the guy said, F you.
Wow.
He said, I'm going to rethink my entire career after today.
Well, I mean, the bottom line is, and Ukraine sees it too, war is awful. It's brutal. My dad was a navigator on a Caproni bomber flying for the Hungarian Air Force on the Russian front. And the stories he finally told before his death are beyond anything you could imagine.
Yeah.
There's nothing good about it. And there's nothing good about what's happening in Ukraine. And the Russian people know nothing about what's going on. I wish there was a way to stop it sooner.
I mean, it's now about killing civilians. It's literally murdering innocent people.
Well, that's what the Russians were all about.
Yeah. I mean, they've always done that. That's their tactic.
There's nothing to be had anymore. Super chat from Jeremy Snyder. Okay, the balloons might not be aliens. However, has anyone thought it could be Skynet or Cylons?
Cylons.
I'll go with Cylons. Cylons.
Cylons for sure.
They'd use
Jeremy.
swarm drone technology.
Excellent.
They'd have microscopic drones that fly into your ear, go into your brain, a little bit of a shock, you're dead. I mean,
By Rob's
swarm
command.
technology's coming, man. It's coming. It's coming.
By Rob's command.
Very, very interesting. All right, let's move on to the next one, guys, since we've worn out these balloons. Unless, JP, you didn't get to say anything. You want to say anything?
I want to say that I bet you dollars to donuts, I don't know what that phrase even means at this point, that we're going to be seeing a lot of balloon stuff going on in television and movies for the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah, the poll ended and 33% of our chat believe it's aliens.
Oh, really?
Thing is, I want it to be.
Yeah.
Don't you
That's
want it to
that'd
be?
Cool. Yeah.
I want Klaatu to land on the mall, and go up into the Capitol. Or better yet, the Canamites to land at the United Nations and deliver their book to serve man.
Oh, it's a cookbook.
Look, I don't know
if I would.
It's going to be real.
I don't know if I'd want
land
to
on top
follow
of,
aliens that have
Burbank
balloon technology.
I want them to land on Walt Disney Studios executive corporate office right on Iger's front.
Well, they better not land on the giant magical Mickey statue, because then it'll pop on the hat.
They're only making themselves known because they're pissed off at Star Wars. They're like, come on, guys.
Okay, so let's see. We've got, during the Super Bowl, if you guys all watched it, we got our first look at June's Flash movie trailer. Inspired by the Flashpoint comic book event of 2011, the speedster moves so fast that he changes the timeline, creating an alternate reality. We get Michael Keaton delivering the classic I'm Batman line after 30 years. We see 2 Barry Allens and a Supergirl costume reveal as she flies alongside Batwing. James Gunn the
movie to make right now. I don't know if they're going to be able to really change the world with it, but I'm looking forward to having an amazing 2+ hour experience with the film.
Excellent. Paul, what did you think of the trailer? And
I thought the Flash trailer was good.
Yeah, it was great.
Better than Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Even with all the baggage of Ezra. And I try to put that aside because I completely understand what the executives are doing. I've had to work with alcoholic stars that could barely be poured into the set to give their lines. People have no idea what goes on out there. Okay. So when they're trying to get Ezra cleaned up and begging him to just like stop with the stupid shit, I'm actually quite sympathetic because I've gone through this. Not quite the same. And it wasn't me. I'm just trying to tell you that wasn't me.
That's what Ezra said.
And so, on one level, on a human level, if Ezra actually does clean himself up, I'm actually quite happy. Like, we need to be happy when people get to fix the bullshit of their lives. There's nothing wrong with that. So there's a potential redemption story in there. Yeah, I thought that was a very entertaining trailer. Will it save the world? No, but I'm looking forward to a good superhero movie.
Oh yeah,
excellent. Rob, we're when Michael Keaton came on and said,
"Oh yeah,
Batman."
Oh,
what kind of moment was that for you?
Well, okay. First of all, I love the Flash trailer. I thought it was great, and everyone's saying like, well, it's like Ezra Miller. They're like Peter Parker in No Way Home. I'm like, okay. Flashpoint came out, 15, 20 years ago? I don't remember when the comic came out. I have it.
Yeah.
It's right on the shelves over there. I like this. I like the story. I don't think it was odd. I think it was it led into the New 52.
That's right. Yeah. So early 2000s.
I think Flashpoint, and one of the things I loved about the Flashpoint universe was that the Atlanteans and the Amazons were at war.
Yes.
Which I thought was great, and I don't know if they're going to touch on that. I know that,
and it was Thomas Wayne instead of Bruce.
Yeah. And Aquaman and I think Aquaman and Wonder Woman were in Flashpoint. And they've cut them out. In the Flash, but they were. I think
Wonder Woman's still in it.
Okay, she might be because there's a pop figure of her.
Yes.
And how stoked am I that I have the Zod hot toy?
Ooh,
I'm
right?
very excited about that.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. But no, this looked really interesting, and I'll tell you why. What I really liked about this, and in the trailer, it sums it up. Why do you want to save this universe? Because this is the universe that my mom is in.
Ooh,
and that is. Look, I think the problem with superhero films is they're limited by the genre itself. There is not a lot of the Watchmen. Unfortunately, Watchmen already came out, and I think one of the problems with Watchmen was a comment on the medium of comic books.
Right.
And if you read issue 5 of Watchmen, it was the same forward as it was backwards in terms of its panel design.
Mm-hmm.
And they did some really interesting things about commenting on the medium of comic books and comic book heroes. The thing is, if you were to make a Watchmen movie now, the Watchmen movie would have been about our society inundated with comic book films. Because in the Watchmen universe, there are no superhero comics. That's why a character is reading a pirate comic, The Tales of the Black Freighter. I love Watchmen. I'm a huge Watchmen acolyte. I probably read the graphic novel 50 times.
I didn't like the TV show, but yeah.
The TV show is, by the way, one of the weirdest genre TV shows ever made. That show is wacky.
It's wacky.
I mean, it was, and again, I don't think there's a better example of, it's so funny because it's not Kurtzman, it's, who Damon Lindelof. And so the Watchmen comic has the doomsday clock counting down to 0. It's about the nuclear apocalypse, the end of humanity. So Lindelof says, no, the greatest threat facing humanity now is racism.
Right.
And like that's
not
what
the
he's
doomsday
saying.
clock.
Yeah, that's what he's saying in interviews. And I'm like,
the doomsday clock.
Racism as opposed to nuclear. And what's funny is, I'm like, have you traveled around the world? Like, have you gone to?
Wild.
We're like the least racist country on the planet Earth.
Oh my God, by far.
And it's like we're a melting pot of people. We're like, give us your tired, your whatever. Come to America.
You're Mexicans.
And anybody, yeah, right. Anybody can do. And by the way, anybody who knows anything, dating a Mexican girl is awesome. So I'm just saying.
I'm married to one.
And
we all married
so it is so crazy that our country is gripped in this whole we need reparations, the 1614 whatever the movement. It's like, have you people get a passport? Please travel around the world and see what the rest of the world is like. Would you please do that? Because this country, I do not know what has happened to America, but man, we have a lot of really uneducated people that have never been around the world. Because if they had
entitled young people is what we have.
Universities would happen.
Well, that's why we need great hero. That's why we need great hero stories: the truth, justice, American way.
Yeah,
Superman.
And I think I've lost the point I was trying to make. My tie drive, but
dating Mexican girls.
But let's talk about that. But because there's no downside.
You have a subject matter expert,
and when there is a downside, it's awesome. Just saying. But no, I think that
Latinos are like candles. Okay, they look all great, they smell great, but if you ignore them too long, they'll burn down your house.
Yes, absolutely.
And there's nothing wrong with that. You got insurance.
I don't ignore my wife.
No, but I do think that the comic book movie, I'm excited for it. To me, comic book characters they're like take your cop movies, whether it's Dirty Harry, whether it's Serpico, whether it's To Live and Die in L.A. or The French Connection, or whether it's westerns, whether it's Shane, whether it's The Searchers, whether it's High Noon. Pick your genre. The superhero genre is the same kind of thing. Now, we used to be inundated. No one remembers this because we were not born yet, but the Western genre dominated. Star Trek, Wagon Train to the Stars. That's how Roddenberry pitched
That's what it was, yeah. That's how he sold it.
And the superhero genre is now that same thing, that heroic genre, whether there's too much of it or not, I don't know, but I thought The Flash, that was a banger of a trailer.
That was a banger of a trailer.
And when you see Michael Keaton's face, and they could have cut right into it when he just says it. No, they waited. The trailer literally stops, takes a beat, and then the camera pushes in. I'm Batman. I mean, look, this is the most ridiculously fan service. Give me what I want, but I'm there for it.
I want it. Yeah,
I was like,
I'm all
give it to me now. And as long as give me a great story.
Right.
Give me great characters and a great story. And in the word around town, living in Hollywood, I have heard nothing over the last year, and I've heard it from very disparate parts of the industry. People that work in visual effects, people that work in post, and now people like James Gunn. Everyone has said this movie is great, which is why Ezra Miller's their troubles were such that they were so problematic, because everyone talked about how great the movie is.
Yeah, so I'm going to stop you there, Rick, because I saw you struggling with the pronouns. The movie actually worked for me in one moment, because I've been struggling with Ezra's pronouns for the last year.
You can't talk about The Flash, you say he,
right.
And then when you talk about Ezra Miller, it's they.
Yeah,
and when
it's very
you're
difficult.
On the John Campea show, I've been wrestling with this, and in the
But
trailer,
in the
they
movie,
solved the problem.
Yes, they solved the problem, because they just introduced two Flashes, and now everyone's referring to the Flash as they and them.
I was like, they did that on purpose. I mean, they did that for them on purpose.
When the feet came together, bro, I was like, our mom. I was like, okay, this works. This is how you solve the problem.
Everyone
All
understands.
the reviewers aren't going to have an issue.
Okay, so then everyone that wants to use those pronouns has to clone themselves.
First of all, can we come up with something new? That's bad language.
It's got to be a better name for it.
I mean, Strunk and White, The Elements of Style, one of the core writing tomes that by the way, people probably you know what I learned in public school? I had my Strunk and White copy.
That was one of the best books out there.
Ever, right?
Yeah.
What is writing?
Oh, yeah.
Super Flash.
You had your Strunk and White. Strunk and White would not be down with the bastardization of language to fit someone's agenda.
Yeah, of course not.
Amen.
Of course not.
And I love that book. I live by that book.
I did too. I had that open all the time. I was following it constantly. Grammar.
That's
It's
Stephen
brilliant
King's
book,
Bible.
and small, and reporters. I mean, not because I was a reporter also. That was a very important. You got that handed to you when you were.
Paul, I think you and everyone's looking at us going, Strunk and White, what are you talking about?
It's old, yes.
The elements, first of all, it's timeless.
Yes.
The Elements of Style is one of the cornerstones of the English language.
It is, yeah.
By the way, I always mention books. People are like, I want to go get that. I'm not mentioning a science fiction novel. Right now, I'm telling you, Strunk and White's The Elements of Style.
It is
you must
this
own
big,
it.
Get it.
that thin. You will get through it quickly. It is not a burden.
Yes, put it in your toolbox. Use it.
Yes,
Be
you will be a
intelligent.
better writer.
Be a better writer, 100%.
Why do you have to? We got Chat GPT. What?
That's
Oh,
my
you
writer.
don't want to get into that
Yeah,
one. that's for
Chato.
sure.
Chato GPT.
Mexican Iron Man. So I know you're on the Marvel side of things here, being
No.
Iron Man and all.
No,
but-
actually, that's funny because I got named Mexican Iron Man because that's the name that me and Doomcock came up with like 4 years ago or something like that. But there's only 2 Marvel characters I like. Iron Man was one. Doctor Strange is really my favorite. Those are the only books I read. I grew up a DC guy. Brian knows this because we talked about DC stuff for 2.5 hours over lunch when we met in LA last month. But I grew up a DC guy, so I have painfully endured all of the woes of Warner Brothers over these last many decades, the ups, the downs, the sideways turns, and whatnot.
Mike's a reformed Snyder, bro.
I'm a reformed Snyder fan, and you know, when I say reformed, I mean I was one of those. I mean, I'm not saying like with Rob when Rob says, "Oh, I appreciated the movie and this," and Rob has a very sensible way of approach. No, I was absolutely off the wagon, a Snyderaholic. I mean, I was. Oh, look at that! He's got his Mexican Airman figure.
This is the greatest gift I ever received from Mike. I've never received a better gift than this, ever.
It looks like a halter top with a boob adjustment.
This is a hot toy. It is a modified hot toy, and if I may, because this is too good not to show.
I want to see it. I want to see it. Yeah,
I'm more of a Marvel.
I saw Rob on a show a year and a half ago on the Hot Toys that he did with Az, and I sent a super chat in, and he said, "I'd love a Mexican Iron Man hot toy," so I commissioned Andy Masterson to make 3. There's one's in his house.
Hot. Nice.
Okay, now this is the actual die cast. Now, the Mexican colors painted and all that, but here's the best part: it comes with an iron sombrero.
That's the shit.
Does he throw it?
It's got a magnet in it. I mean, are you kidding me?
Oh my god, I want one of those now. Damn it, awesome. Mike.
No, I think it's probably. I think that it's probably out of battery power, but the stand. If you're a Hot Toys fan, the stand was modified. Right? Ooh. And it has voice activated. Oh, dang. Let's see.
Yeah. I should do a video and show it off and put it on my chat.
Yeah.
No, so I grew up with Warner Brothers.
It's dead. It's Mike's voice. He's the voice.
Take out the battery so it doesn't leak.
Well, it's a USB battery.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, it's my voice saying all kinds of
It's the best. It's the greatest thing I own.
So this guy named Mark S. clipped me on Midnight's Edge for 6 months and put about 20 different sounds on it. But I'm a DC guy, and I was kind of turned off and turned down. I freaking love that trailer. I thought it was well executed. I thought it was well edited.
Beautiful.
And I'm excited to see this movie. I have to say, I'm all in. I am all in. I cannot wait. I'm going to buy advance tickets. I'm going to see it in IMAX.
Yeah, same. I'm going all in, baby. I'm bringing people.
Yeah, get out of my way because I will be at that theater 20 minutes early, and I will be, front center IMAX large screen format.
Yep. Same here.
If I can see it in
supposed to be great.
If I can see it in 4DX, I will.
Yeah, 4DX is where you want to go. I saw Black Adam in 4DX, and it was like riding a roller coaster for 2 hours.
Brian, isn't 4DX?
I was at the end of it. I was wet and I was sweaty, and I was like, I don't know what happened.
Yeah, at this point, 4DX is the way to go for me. The problem is we don't have one around.
Superhero stuff. You don't want to watch The Notebook in 4DX. That's just like raining for 2.5 hours.
Are you kidding? Every kiss, you'd feel it.
Talking about being sweaty afterwards.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Robbie, so you're very kind. Thank you very much for showing that off.
What are you kidding me? It's one of the greatest things I own.
Let me ask
and I don't. This is not facetious. Somebody to make something, to have something commissioned for you, it's who's there's 3 of these in the world.
That's true.
I'm a little jealous, to be honest with you.
Soon there's
the thing is, it's really well done.
I'm paying Iron Man for another one of those.
Yeah. Listen, let me ask you guys a question. So if the Flash is successful, what beyond this will it take for DC to finally take the reins from Marvel? What do you guys think? Let's go.
Keep James Gunn.
Keep James Gunn. A decade of success. I mean, right now I think the bar is lowering because the MCU right now is. I know we're gonna talk about it later, but it's pretty rough. Nothing has been. I mean, I guess things have been financially successful, but nothing has been like audience level successful since the entire phase. So even if Quantumania is awesome, that's like really sort of the end of the last phase, anyways. Everything new has been really bad. So this is their time to step it up and get in there. But then there's so much drama surrounding it that like James Gunn has to come in and go, I'm going to reboot it. But then what he really does is he soft reboots it and brings in a bunch of crazy characters, which is such a James Gunn thing to do. So good on him. But a lot of people are, of course, they're a little shaken by it. Like, I don't understand why you're not mentioning any of the core characters, but we're talking about creature commandos. I want to see that, but I know a lot of normies don't understand why that's important. It's important to James Gunn. So he's got to like just knock it out of the park for a few movies for it to be a real thing.
Yeah, and talking about the core, we've done that over and over and over again. And there's such a huge expanded world of other even more interesting characters in some cases. But with James Gunn, I don't know what it is. Everything he touches, I like.
Yep, same.
With the superhero world. I was saying on Twitter that he should take over both Marvel and DC together. Just do them both, compete against themselves.
And I did a video where I basically said he is taking over Marvel because Marvel has been so lackluster. He's putting them on his shoulders also. If he succeeds, then potentially Marvel succeeds. His the pressure on him is enormous because it's not just DC. It's all, the entire genre of all superhero movies is
and
now.
The new Guardians trailer, I love that.
Yeah. So that looks like it's going to be a nice final hurrah.
Anyone else think it's weird though that he's doing the Authority, which has like copies of Superman and Batman, like knockoff versions of Superman and Batman, and that's going to be one of his big movies, but he's not doing a Superman and Batman.
He will. I mean, we just don't know. We don't know everything that he's doing. He just
that's true.
What he was trying to do, and I said this already. He's trying to lower expectations. We don't need to blow everything up to Superman versus Batman v Superman and go, oh, okay, that was horrible. He can't afford that. But right now, initially, if we see some more Peacemakers that's funny and works, and I'm enjoying myself, it actually feels like I'm going back to the Cole cigar store and sitting on the on the shelf hiding from the owner reading comics. Like, I want the simple comic life. I want everything to return to human level. I'd love to see a 1940s Batman where he's just dealing with hoods and stuff and
Batman New York.
Crimes. Everything needs to be reduced. Every single bad guy can't be of galactic proportions.
Well, I think this Flash movie is going to give the psychotic people like me, because Paul, you were on a live stream where we reacted, and I was pretty emotional about, like, damn it, I want one of the big three or 4 or 5, yada yada yada. I think the release of this movie, what it's going to do is it's going to placate those of us because Flashpoint is pretty well known by anyone who's a DC head. I mean, Brian, wouldn't you say?
Flashpoint's super well known. Yeah.
I mean, if you don't know Flashpoint, then you'd argue that you must have fallen off the DC wagon.
It's one of the most famous stories. Yeah.
So the animated film they did is pretty good too.
Right. I think what's going to happen is that this is going to provide that buffer where you're going to get your little fix of your banner type characters like you were talking, Paul, and now that creates the air of oxygen so that now he can do the things he did. Look, I went in a Peacemaker. Kicking, screaming, negative, pessimistic. I hate this actor. He's pro-China. La 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 la. Son of a gun! I freaking love that thing, and I can't wait for more Peacemaker.
His dad
and Guardians
was
of the
a
Galaxy
mess.
Because I'm not a Marvel guy. I didn't know who the hell they were.
I had to call my sister. Dad. What a piece of shit he was.
I didn't even know who Guardians of the Galaxy was. I mean, in those two movies, God, I love them.
The property I wish Gunn would do, which for me was the greatest comic book series of all time, was the Fantastic Four Galacticus.
Oh yes,
arc. That to me, it didn't go through time. It was legendary. Ben Grimm lost his girlfriend to the Silver Surfer. I mean, I was crying reading. Oh my God. He lost his blind girl she falls in love with the Silver Surfer because he isn't treating her properly.
I thought they were setting
themes in there that aren't in comics.
At the end of the 2 movies that came out with Alba, they were setting up like a Galactus thing, but they
didn't do it right.
Right, that's true.
That to me is one of the greatest comic book series next to The Dark Knight. I mean, it's just a fantastic series, and I wish someone would do that right.
I got a super chat from Atheist for the Cause. Are superhero movies in competition with sci-fi, or do the genres complement each other? JP?
complement each other.
Yeah.
If I could, I would watch a great superhero movie, a great sci-fi movie, and then go back and forth.
And fantasy. I'd watch also throwing a good fantasy.
Oh,
as long as the trolls or whatever don't have English accents.
Robert,
and I don't mean England, I mean American accents.
Right. Robert, do you remember that comic where Superman was thrown back in time because of Savage, and he had to
Vandal Savage?
Vandal said he had no superpowers, and it was like a fantasy. He had a sword, and he had to kill a mountain lion. That was awesome.
Well, look, I mean, I think that the superhero genre is kind of inherently science fiction, you know, in a way.
Mm-hmm.
But mostly it's more akin to the Greek myths, you know, or stories like Gilgamesh or something, and which I love, you know, which I love those things. But I think, look, to me, I think Infinity War and Endgame are two of the most unbelievably entertaining movies I've ever seen in my life.
I agree.
As somebody who loves comic books and loves those crossovers and grew up with those characters, I mean, despite the fact that it opens with Doctor Strange and Iron Man going at each other about Ben and Jerry's ice cream, you know, it's the humor, the way that when the Marvel Cinematic Universe was working well, it was working at the top of its game. And Infinity War to me is the pinnacle of now. You could say Captain America: Winter Soldier is probably the best Marvel movie, but to me, Infinity War it embodies everything I love about comic books. Right. Endgame to a certain extent, but Endgame gets a little bit more plot heavy, and it made me question things. But you know, the superhero genre and the science fiction genre. Here's the thing: I think that the science fiction genre has been underserved. There are not a lot of, like, I think about the great science fiction films of the 21st century: Gattaca, Children of Men, Her. Aniara, you know, if you've seen that Swedish film, those movies, that's a movie that kills me that no one's ever seen. Never Let Me Go, that Mark Romanek directed, that's based on the book Never Let Me Go. The best story about clones ever made. It will leave you weeping if you watch, and it has an incredible cast. Andrew Garfield is in it. Keira Knightley is in it. And no one's ever seen it. And it's so funny because I read the book by, what is it, Kaiju Ishiguro? How do you pronounce his first? I don't remember. But that book, you know, I went and saw that movie opening night, first show at the ArcLight here in LA. No one was in the theater, and I was sitting behind these two women, the middle-aged women or maybe older women, and look, I was weeping at the end. Charlotte Rampling's in the movie. I'm weeping at the end of this movie, and I walked down. They sat there, and we were the only three people left in the theater. And as I'm walking out, these women are like, "I can't believe anyone made that. That was the most terrible movie. That was the most depressing, horrible movie I've ever seen." And I'm just like, "Oh my God." And there was nobody around, thank God, because I was weeping. But it's all about clones. Let me tell you, it knew a lot more about cloning than Bruce Logan, who wrote John Logan, who Bruce Logan's a cinematographer. John Logan, who wrote Star Trek Nemesis with Shinzon, the clone of Picard. It knew a lot more about cloning than Nemesis did. And John Logan's an Academy Award winner. So anyway, but I think that science fiction is being underserved. And let me tell you, a lot of people don't know this.
I agree.
One of the great science fiction novels of the last 10 years is Shin Lu's The Three-Body Problem.
Oh, Three-Body.
I saw you talking about that.
Okay, The Three-Body Problem it's the first in a series of 3 books. The Chinese, so Weiss and Benioff, who did Game of Thrones, are adapting The Three-Body Problem. But the Chinese beat them to the punch. And there are 30 episodes of The Three-Body Problem from Tencent for free on YouTube right now. So the first book was adapted into 30 episodes. And admittedly, you know, it's subtitled and it's very modern Chinese, and that there's a lot of love songs with musical montages. But it is hard science fiction. And the three body, and it deals with extraterrestrials, and it's fascinating, and the adaptation is great. So if you guys, my favorite thing right now in science fiction is the Chinese adaptation of the three body problem. It's on YouTube, it's free, and it's on the 10-cent channel. Now they're releasing like 4 episodes a week, but I think they're already up. And when was the last time a science fiction novel got 30 hours to adapt it?
Wow.
One book.
No way.
So it's doing a real deep dive. And if you haven't seen it, I mean, if you haven't read the book, I mean, the book was a Hugo Award winner. It's pretty amazing. And the show is really well done. But it is very, again, you have to deal with the musical themes and the...
Well, look what they did with Foundation. That was like a disaster.
Yeah, it was. What was that? I didn't see the Foundation in the Foundation. What?
The Foundation was such a disappointment because Asimov is my like favorite author of all time.
But that's a very difficult. You can't shoot the first book, only the last 2.
Yeah.
When the mule. Once the mule's in, then you got stories you can write. But Edge of Tomorrow, I thought, was a good science fiction movie.
Yeah.
Man, that movie's so good.
Yeah, they named it the wrong bad title though.
All you need is kill. The original title of the manga. I have the Japanese steelbook, but that's the title of the movie in Japan.
Isn't it a Korean story?
No, it's Japanese.
It's Japanese. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. They didn't need to change the title. Anyways, real quick, Super
That
Chat,
movie is
Ross.
so good, though.
Oh, it's
I've
great.
seen it many times.
It's it's beautifully made.
Even the English title before they changed it
Didn't
was
make
like,
any money.
Live, Die, Repeat. That would have been better too.
Yeah. I agree
Ross
with
Dogg's Broken Spirit says my 2 favorite YouTube personalities, Mexican Iron Man and Robert Meyer Burnett. Loving
Fuck
this.
you.
Well, I like the podcast guys.
Yeah,
I mean,
what's
Paul
up with that?
Chato, he was the guy that came in. He was the latecomer that
Ross?
became a success.
Yeah.
Man.
Denizens. I mean,
I was doing 5 years worth of technology humor, which nobody liked, and I went, you know what? I was a network executive. Why don't I do something along those lines?
now I have to ask you because YouTube fascinates me because I've been on it now since 2015. April of 2015 will mark my 8th year on the platform.
Wow.
And yeah, I know. I started when John Schnepp goes, "Hey man, you want to come down and do this YouTube show?" I'm like, "You do
The
a
original
YouTube?"
Sweaty.
Yeah, and it was AMC Heroes. It was the 6th episode of AMC Heroes. It was April of 2015. I'm like, I watch YouTube trailers. I didn't know what YouTube was.
I have his signed documentary, The Death of Superman Lives. I have it signed.
Oh, I'm glad you bought it because one of the things that depressed him most was all the people that stole it.
I bought it, and then I went and struggled through a Comic-Con line to get to his booth to get him to sign it.
He was. I mean, it was funny because on a Monday, he came in and he said, "I don't feel very good," and on Thursday he was gone.
Oh my!
It was, and he
very
was
sudden.
He was a day younger than I was.
That's always
He was
depressing.
born on May 16th. I'm born on May 15th, same year.
Yeah, it shocked the entire community. He was the original Sweaty, man.
He was amazing.
Yeah.
No, he was an amazing guy. But I don't even remember what I was saying now. It's totally
You had
derailed.
a YouTube question.
I want to ask you, YouTube. So you kind of came on the scene, and I was unaware of you, and I watch a lot of YouTube. And then when you came on the scene, I couldn't get enough of you.
Oh,
Your delivery, your iconography, all of it. I thought you did a great job and are still doing a great job. What made you were just telling us, I guess, what made you decide to come on to YouTube, and what do you think of your journey? Tell us about, like, what have you learned through your journey on the platform, and now you've reached 100,000 subscribers, right?
I'm 300. I'm 3,000 short of 100,000.
Because, I mean, I want that plaque. And you're going to get the plaque.
Go subscribe.
Shane has the plaque behind him now.
I know you guys got that, but I'm curious. I mean, you came on and you came into that space, and I've watched your videos and I really like them. And what has your journey on YouTube, especially in the last year, been like?
Well, so very quickly, I was an entertainer, comedian, sketch artist, network executive, and but I run a web development company, a fairly good sized one. And I thought YouTube was a good replacement for blogging. I thought blogging was dead.
Yeah.
I thought people should be vlogging, and I wanted to learn the medium. So that was my initial impetus to just get into it. And then, I was having fun. I know how to shoot stuff. I know how to direct. I know sound. I know lighting. I mean, I know all this stuff. But it was still a learning experience. And I decided not to exploit my entertainment, because I didn't know there was any interest in entertainment news. And I thought, I'm a Macintosh guy, and I was with Apple, and I have very good early stories of being hired by Apple and displaying their computers. And I was a booth babe. I'm a super tech nerd. Okay?
I was a booth babe too, bro.
Super tech nerd.
Were you a CES show guy?
Yes.
Yeah. I did like 14
and
CES
not just
shows.
that, but the Las Vegas
NAB.
So I was part of all of that. Plus we developed a security product that won best security product in 2000 at CES. So I was doing videos on that, but then the tech stuff started dying. It was getting boring, and Hackintoshing was no longer interesting, because I did that for 6 years. I built Hackintoshes for 6 years. And then I came up with this notion. And the thing is, in terms of the journey, I'm not afraid to trying different things and blowing myself up.
Right.
Which YouTube hates, but I don't care.
Right.
And then I came up with this idea, former network executive, as opposed to just rage tubing about something. I thought, why not talk to people about what a network executive is thinking, and why I actually like this show you think is horrible, and I'll give you my reasoning for why it went greenlit, even though it was horrible. It had a writer we trusted. It had a star attached to Ulrich. So there's a million reasons why we will greenlight a show that's got nothing to do with whether you like it or not.
Right.
And all I care about is its success. And my joke was that the most important part of my job was keeping my fucking job.
Right.
That was it. And how did I keep my job within the hierarchy of the crazy Hollywood and CBC TV system?
Yeah.
On that point, you made a video that just blew up. That there was that one video that just blew up, and it was I think everybody watched it on.
Yeah,
YouTube.
it was about, I did a couple, but the big one was pop culture is ours. The nerds made it. We actually built.
Oh yeah.
We actually built the software you're fucking around. You're screwing up. We built all this stuff. This is ours. It's not yours. Anyway,
I remember that video. That was a great.
That one blew up, and then now I'm doing this and enjoying myself and philosophizing.
What I find really interesting is all of us here, there's a community, and there's a community. I was a big Midnight's Edge fan before. I didn't know those guys. I was watching Midnight's Edge.
They found me.
And I think I was watching Gary, Gary Beekler, Nerdrotic. I've known Chris Gore for over 30 years.
Nice guy.
And then I was watching people I really loved Chris Stuckman's reviews. Mm-hmm. And I love The Critical Drinker. Yeah. And I think I go all the way back to Red Letter Media. When I watched their Generations reviews, that was the first time I knew who Plinkett was. That Generations review is 30 minutes long. I've watched that review 50 times. When they were ripping on Star Trek, I'm like, oh my God, these guys totally get it. And then when they did First Contact and Insurrection and Nemesis, but it was the prequel reviews. Mm-hmm. It was Red Letter Media's prequel reviews. I'm like, then I realized just how smart those guys. Mike's a genius. I mean, in terms of story analysis, and I think that in Doomcock to a certain extent, Plinkett was the first person that had this alter ego that I remember seeing. Mm-hmm. And I think Doomcock follows in that tradition, and The Critical Drinker does, and I think that's a way, again, in a way that allegorical science fiction makes people consider things they might not think if it was in a political arena. It's in a science fiction show, so they'll watch The Monsters Will Do on Maple Street and think about what it means. And I liked all that. So that's why, when people say, you and Doomcock have beef, I'm like, no, I understand. I get it's a tradition of YouTube pundits that I have liked. And I watched Doomcock for a long time. And I love the platform because it's like an ongoing, endless science fiction convention.
Yes.
24/7, 7 days a week. And that's what my experience of going to cons was like as a kid. I remember in 1984, I saved up money and I went to the World Science Fiction Convention in Anaheim, California. My friend Shade and I took a 2-week road trip. It was between my junior and senior year in high school. And we were going to the 42nd World Science Fiction Convention. I'd never been to it was in Anaheim here in California. And I met Carrie O'Quinn, the publisher of Starlog. And he and I and some other dude talked in front of an elevator, like in the hall of the hotel, for like 4 hours.
Jeez.
And I'm like, this science fiction convention is the greatest thing I've ever been at in my entire life. We talked about The Prisoner. We talked about Ayn Rand. And I talked about reading Anthem. Now, like Ayn Rand, everyone hates her. But, man, I was totally an objectivist in high school. I'm like, Atlas Shrugged and The Fountainhead. These are my Bibles. Nowadays.
You must have liked Rush then.
Oh, my God. Well, you mean Rush Limbaugh?
No, Rush the band.
Okay,
because all the lyrics were.
Dude, all the lyrics were. I was gonna say because when I saw "I Love You, Man," and have you seen "I Love You, Man"?
No,
the movie. Okay, okay. Don't say anything. You need to watch. You brought up Rush. 2112. 2112 was like it's a sci-fi record. Like Styx is the Grand Illusion.
Yes,
and you had to. But you need to watch the movie "I Love You, Man."
Okay, I've got it listed.
Yes.
I remember when Permanent Waves came out. Rush was a mainstay. I mean, Geddy Lee, come on, his voice. Oh my God!
The first iteration of that band played at my high school, Don Mills Collegiate.
Oh well,
with the old drummer.
I'm a huge.
They weren't quite as good back then.
Shout out to her.
I will. If I see Getty, I will say hi.
We're gonna get you guys a room, and I'm working on that.
Further to what you're saying.
Sorry, you guys are like I don't mean.
I remember back in 1943.
I know we're like, oh my God, when I was a kid walking through the snow for 20 miles.
Speaking of old men, we're gonna bring in Matthew Kadish.
Oh, bring in the old guy.
Not only is this a continuous science fiction convention, people are looking to us for truth and reality that they're not getting from the mainstream media press.
Right.
And that is what is the most interesting, and that's been the most gratifying for me, because everything that I've tried to do has been honest.
Yeah.
And I'm not bought by anyone. I got to know you through Free Enterprise. I have to admit, being a huge fan of that movie, howled myself to death.
It's going to be 25 years old this year.
Wow. Shatner reading porn in a store, and it was like, it was just so funny.
And you know what's funny about that? We were all working on this magazine called Sci-Fi Universe that was published by Larry Flint.
Yes.
And Chic, we were able to license all this mag. He's like, yeah, whatever. And there were two magazines. There was Chic and a magazine called Rage that we were able to, and I think there was one other. And it was so funny because I kind of felt bad that there was Shatner in a bookstore, a real bookstore in LA called the Iliad. It was right next to Odyssey Books. And that's where we had it. Nice. Swear to God.
Very terrific movie. Great. And I would encourage anyone who hasn't heard of it, a show called Prisoners of Gravity, which was on TVO up here. It is the precursor of everything that we're doing right now. Rick Rain was hosting it. Mark Asquith was the producer of it. There are phenomenal footage of Jack Kirby, of the guy who did The Watchmen,
Alan Moore or
Alan
Dave
Moore,
Gibbons.
Just the most fantastic interviews you could. Ursula K. Le Guin.
Oh.
I mean,
who, by the way, Star Trek: Strange New Worlds ripped off.
Yes, I know.
Those who walk away from Umlaus, and here's the
Yes.
thing: Alex Kurtzman was like, "Yes, we were very inspired." But inspired, you stole her story
No.
without
Nope.
accreditation.
Yep.
Right.
And stole a DC Fontana. Oh no, he gave DC Fontana a bit of a credit on that one.
You're
Did
right,
he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, at the very beginning.
The entire backstory of Rebecca Romaine's character of Una is stolen from her 1989 Star Trek novel Burning Dreams. Pardon me.
wow.
Wait, hang on. Wait, that's not true.
It was a DC
It's
Fontana.
Vulcan's Glory.
Okay,
She wrote one Star Trek novel, Burning Dreams, which is by Margaret Wanderer Bonanno, is what they stole Pike knowing his fate from. So Strange New Worlds, and people always say to me, well, Rob, you always wanted them to go back to Star Trek novels. Yeah, but I didn't think they would steal from them and not credit the original
At
writers.
least credit it. Give
Yeah,
it.
and
So-
speaking of a writer,
So the idea of Pike knowing his fate, which is stupid, by the way,
Yeah,
was stolen from the book Burning Dreams. Una's entire backstory was stolen from Dorothy Fontana. And that episode when they go to the planet and the kids hooked up, they sacrifice, that is Ursula K. Le Guin's story, Those Who Walk Away from Umlaus.
Wow.
And all of them deserve story credit for those episodes.
I agree.
All of them.
100%. And Rob, thank you for the transition into authors, because we have author with us, Matthew Kadish from the Salty Nerd podcast.
The cat
He's wearing his Earthman Jack hat there. How you doing tonight, Matt?
Doing good. Nice to see at least half the panel has been on my live stream in the past. JP,
right.
wonderful to see you again.
Good to see you.
Had
It's
a
been
little
while.
Star Trek versus the Orville talk not too long ago. And
Awesome.
Chato GTP, how you doing?
I'm
see you.
good. I am the AI.
Yes, you are. I just throw you questions and you come back with paragraphs of answers. It's great.
It's amazing.
Mike, nice hat. Love it.
Bro, is this great or what? I've been wearing it all day.
Yes.
Now I got to get
Mr. Meyer
going.
Burnett. Good to see you slumming it from the John Campia show.
This is not slumming.
Did you just say slumming it? All right, get him off of
Slumming
here.
it.
I mean, I've got my look, man. Look what I got right here.
That's right,
There
baby.
you go.
Terry.
Hashtag
I
Terry
was
Trek.
wearing merch. I was wearing Terry Trek on the John Campy show just the other day.
Were you really? That's
I was
awesome.
wearing my shirt. Yeah. By the way, if Paramount wants to make me a paid shill, please give me some money. But
Yeah.
up until now, I am not a paid
Oh my God,
shill.
Rob! That picture of Terry giving you money, I was laughing so hard.
Okay, here's the thing. I want to take a picture of me and Terry at the premiere, at the after party, and it was Terry. Terry's like, oh, I got an idea. He pulls out his wallet, and it was very funny because he was like going to give me some bills, and I'm like, he's like, Andrew Dice Clay, you only carry hundreds. I'm like, what's it? And he hands them to me in that picture, and his expression is hilarious.
It is great, yeah.
Yeah,
So
this is the one. It looks like
Yeah,
you're like, hey.
that was Terry's idea. And
That's
you know why?
hilarious.
That's why he's a showrunner and a writer. And I'm
Your face
talking on YouTube.
too. It looks like no one can see us, man.
And just so everybody knows, Paramount wouldn't stoop to paying shills on YouTube. So just
No
put that away.
studios do.
Yeah, it just wouldn't
So,
happen, guys.
Especially Rob. I don't
However,
think
for
Paramount likes Rob
diversity and
very much.
inclusion, Mexican Iron Man will take a check.
Yeah.
One of the favorite
We can
things
talk,
that
but-
when the Frantics went on the road, and you would know this if you were entertainers, you would go to a city and the people who were interviewing you would not do any work. They would not read your bio, would not read stuff. They knew nothing about you. You would go in and it was just terrible. And they would always want some kind of publicity picture. And so Peter and I would do this thing where we would shake hands and pretend we're giving a car key to a person who's just driving away. And they never got it like this. They would go, why are you doing that? Just take the picture.
That's hilarious.
It was one
and,
of our favorite pictures.
and people don't there have been people like, you were paid off. I'm like, come on, man.
Yeah, they're
you
really-
think
I'm
I
not
you think
right.
I you think a couple of hundies buys me off?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I felt bad because I retweeted with I knew it. And then
No,
like,
that's
there
the
was, like,
best thing in the world. That was the whole point. It
I
was.
know,
it
but there was like 3 comments were like, "Oh, I see. It's
Oh.
a joke. It's a joke."
I mean, first of all, if someone's paying you under the table, you don't take a picture and put it on social media.
Right.
Rob,
No,
did you find the wad of cash that I put inside the Mexican Iron Man figure?
No, not yet. I don't. You know what? I would leave it there because I don't want to change its mint status.
You know what they need to do is they need to have like a community post fact check thing under that tweet saying, yes, R&B did receive money for his positive reviews of
Dude,
season
I've
3
been
of Picard.
accused of stealing donor money. Like, what, do I have access to your bank account? Like, really? All the work that I've done, here it all is. My favorite thing recently that's happened to me, there's a court case going on, and I found out that I've been accused of stealing these digital assets. Okay? It's a long story. I won't get into it. But
Very long
here's the
story.
thing. Here's the thing. I was the one creating the digital assets. And so I said, hey, I need drives to copy my digital assets for you. And so this person I was copying for, I copied all, had all the digital assets, and they were in this person's office for 6 months. And I said every day, I said, you should really take these home. Because everything we've done on this project, all of it, I'm a post-production supervisor.
Just for reference, a digital asset can be something like a Stinger or anything, right? But they're huge. Like the Stinger I made today for this show was 93 gigs.
This was 8 terabytes.
Right. You
It
can't
was 8
email
terabytes of
those
data.
things. 30 seconds is like
it was
almost
the
100 gigs.
entirety of by the way, I created all this stuff. So it was like everything I'd ever done for years, for like 3 years. One of the things I was accused of was not what I found out in deposition, which I didn't know. I was sued over this. I found out that this person that was suing me actually had those assets the entire time.
Oh, wow.
And now some of them are being used. And I'm like, wow, man. And because I have photographic evidence of all this stuff. And I'm like, wow, I had to go to court. I have a family. Yeah. I spent $30,000 defending myself. And I'm like, I had to explain to people, like, I was the one, it was my work. It was the entirety of, imagine if you worked on a movie, right? And everything you ever worked on passed through you. And there was only one copy of it. That's bad.
That is bad.
What you want to do is you want to take all of it over and copy it over and make copies of it, because you never know when you're going to need it again.
Yeah.
Right.
And and it was, it never occurred to me. I never thought, I was like, as a post-production supervisor, usually you make things in triplicate. Like when you're making a movie, you have the stuff that you've worked on, but there are 3 sets of drives that you save everything to, and they go to different places so they can live there.
Right. I have 2 drives for that. I have 2 drives on my wall in vibration sleeves. And I have 2 of everything gets saved. One on my mine and 1 to each drive.
I mean, I've been a post supervisor since the early 90s. And it's such a weird thing to be accused of things like, and you're like, I do, this is my living, it's a very, and it's a crazy thing. So you just never know. You never know when people, so when Terry Metalis is giving me money and there's photographic evidence of it, someone will take that and go,
there's proof.
He's taking it's proof. It's a bribe. It's a bribe. Yeah. And then you have to fight against it and go, really? Really? like, do you really believe this? And it's a very interesting place. But people really believe.
Oh, people
I was paid off.
Mm.
I was, and the funny thing is studios, like I worked at Warner Brothers. I worked in feature production. So when you work at a studios have, it's an internal system where everybody's paying everybody else off. I mean, but like if there's an internal expense, you pay another department within the studio. Everything is invoiced.
Right.
Like everything. If you want to get a 6-pack of Diet Coke in your you have to account for that. There's got to be there's an accounting for every single
each
dollar.
Each division, each group is its own profit center.
Yeah, yes, that's exactly right. So there is no shill division.
No.
Everyone's like, well, reviewers are paid off. Really? like a studio cannot. There's no underground money vault. Everything is borrowed. When they make a TV show or a movie, they're borrowing money. They have a line of credit that they're using to pay for everything, and nobody gets
against
this.
Earnings.
Yes, 100%. And like this idea that where's that shill fund? For 34 years, I've worked in the entertainment business. Paul, where is the shill fund? You're a network executive. Where does the network keep the magical safe where if they're going to grease the wheels, where do I get that?
Loot boxes.
That's what it is. It's
loot boxes.
Why didn't we think of that 20 years ago? I want a loot box.
Yeah, you just gotta unbox it, get all that shill money out of it.
I mean,
you need the show money.
And here's the thing: I'll take it. I want to be a shill. Please, please pay me money. I will take your cash. You know, you don't have to I'll take it. I'll do the work. I work 24/7 anyway. I will bust my ass for you. Please pay me. Gosh, I mean, how much shilling have I done for Picard season 3? You know why I've done it? Because I loved it.
Amen.
But if I could get money, I'd shill even more. Pay me.
Well, you love it.
I love Star Trek Picard season 3. It, like I said, it put the Katra back into my heart.
Oh,
yes,
that's what it did.
I like telling people that I have integrity and it's available for sale.
Yes, goddamn right. But everybody thinks you're a paid shill. Please, I want to be. Where do I sign up?
And on that note, we want to thank Paul. I know you got to go.
Thank you
for coming on the show. I know it's late over there for you, and I know we got Mexican Iron Man. You got to dip out here in a second, but thank you guys.
I do too. My dogs have to be fed.
I want you to. Can you post that link? That's a balloon that floated above Canada that we had to shoot down.
Did you get that link?
Oh, let me put it up. Yeah,
put it up. We had to shoot this one down.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay,
let me show that.
Be a
real
fun
quick.
surprise. I can feel it.
Oh yeah, it's very good. It's really hard level heading journalism there, Paul.
Yeah, it was squirming.
It's yet to be shot down. It's still at large.
Wow.
The thing is, this is like a wingsuit, but I could wear this.
No.
I don't have to jump off and have Instagram videos. I could just float to work in this.
No. You're not doing that wrong.
I would like to though. If I could stay at 50 feet and just casually go down the 405 or something, it'd be awesome.
Yeah,
that looks like a very expensive gender reveal party.
There you go.
Balloon.
I want to know the motivation behind that thing.
So
drugs.
Well, the writing's on the wall.
Anyways, thanks for having me. Watch everybody's shows and on this wonderful platform. It's been really enjoyable and nice finally meeting you, Robert.
It was great to meet you. We should do a stream. I would love to do a stream and talk to you about how networks work.
Sure, happy to.
That would be that, and how because your insight is great, and
I love the golden era. I'm really a big fan of golden era. I was involved with being in a room, putting the shows up and what the other networks were doing and counter programming.
Yeah.
And people have no idea. They're going, well, why didn't you do that show? Well, it would have been up against another detective show. So that's why we've got a girly show. I mean, people have no idea, but that was the most fun. That was really
You were the algorithm.
Well, the people in the room were the algorithm.
Chato AI.
Chato AI. Anyways, yes, anytime, Robert. It would be an absolute pleasure. You're a silver tongue devil, and this was an enjoyable. Thanks for inviting me, everyone.
What do you got going on, Paul?
Pardon me?
What do you got coming up?
I might be doing a series on one of my favorite all-time shows. Is called The Sandbaggers. It's a British show. I think it's up there with The Prisoner, Breaking Bad. Sopranos is one of the greatest all-time shows in the history of TV that nobody knows about, which is why I'm going to do it. It's
excellent. It's Call Me Chato. Get over there and subscribe to his channel and make sure we get you back on Raw.
Yeah, and get me up to 100,000 so I don't have to talk to you, please.
Yeah,
he's close. Let's get
this guy.
Thanks, Paul.
Bye, everyone.
Later, Paul.
All right, Mexican Iron Man, you got a heart out as well, buddy. What do you got going on coming up?
Tomorrow morning, Loki's Mornings of Mischief, 9 o'clock Eastern. I do that morning show every Tuesday. And, of course, Midnight's Edge, After Dark, and Midnight's Edge. Yep, that's what I got.
Yeah, well, I got to tell you guys, if you guys don't know Mexican Iron Man, and everybody here knows him, because he is the gypsy of the community. He supports everybody. He loves everybody. Dude, you're just the best, and we love you so much. Thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.
He's also the greatest dinner companion you could ever have.
Yeah, for me it was lunch, but yeah, you know what? And don't forget, Mike and I are going to be doing a DC show on Sundays as soon as things quiet down a little bit.
Nice.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Huge fan of all your shows. Thanks to everybody in the chat, and thanks for having me. And I pride myself on trying to be the #1 fan on YouTube for so much of what you guys do. And I just want to thank you all because I interact with so many people that aren't necessarily YouTubers and people in the streams, and it's warms my heart, the emails, the DMs that I get about the shows that all of you do. And I mean that to every single one of you on this. JP, you don't know me very well, but I actually started with you at Orville. I just happened to become friends with PJ, and I've been over at Orville Nation and haven't been on your channel as much. But I've been watching you for years.
Well, thank you very much. I hope I'm able to put some stuff out soon. That
thank you for all, and I mean this. Every single one of you here. Thank you, every single one of you, for everything that you do for all of us fans of all of these properties. And I'll see you guys around. See you next week.
Thank
Later,
you,
Mike.
Bye, buddy.
By the way, I have to go too.
Okay, well,
I want to thank.
Good.
Thank you, JP. I have a interview with the executive producer of the Orville and also the WGA president, David Goodman, who's one of the great guys of all time.
he is a good dude. He's got some new stuff out.
Such a great dude. He wrote a great Netflix film that's getting accolades now, and he's great. I love that guy. And Brian, Shane, obviously you are we're birds of a feather.
Yes, we are.
And Matthew, good to
That
see
is
you.
true. Yes,
And,
it was really awesome sitting next to you watching Star Trek. That's one of my dreams because I've been following you since John
Dude,
Snap.
and how great was that presentation?
Oh, it's fantastic.
I mean, and
I
the
started
audience,
watching you when John Snap was on YouTube in 2017 easily, and then in 2022 or 23 I'm sitting there next to you at a Star Trek premiere. Wild,
dude,
bro.
it was crazy. With the entire cast of the Next
With the
Generation.
entire cast, yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
Wild.
it was fantastic.
It was
He
crazy.
is Robert Meyer Burnett, and he has the Burnett work, which, by the way, I love that you're expanding your network and you got all these great hosts coming on and doing.
Yeah, and by the way, there's a big rebranding coming April 1st. The entire everything is going to be new.
Ooh.
Everything.
Well, make sure you
New
guys
shows. We got a lot of crazy stuff. It's finally going to be a network, but I'm going to change the name.
Oh, you're going to change it.
No,
I love the Burnett.
Yeah.
work. That's going to be
The
fun.
Burnett network. It's going to be more all encompassing.
Well, we can't wait to see what you do. We love watching you. We appreciate you being here. We hope you come back on Raw Rant.
Are you kidding? You and I, we between Popcast and my channel, we have to carry the torch. Yeah, Picard season 3.
Hashtag Terry Trek, baby. That's what it's all about. Thank you so much, Robert. We appreciate you and have a wonderful rest of your week.
Live long and prosper, survive and succeed. Kapla. Remember, only a fool fights in a burning house.
Amen, brother.
Good tea, nice house.
Only a fool fights in a burning house. I like that one.
That's awesome. That's a
Get
great
the hell
one.
outside and fight.
I'm keeping that one.
All right, Mr. Well, we were down to 4. So
Yeah,
Matt,
now that all the warm up acts are gone, I can
I
finally take the
break it down,
stage.
brother.
Now it's the Fab Four.
The Fab Four. Yeah, we started on YouTube around all the same time, if I
I
remember
think
correctly.
so. Yeah, 2017 we started, right?
I did
Six-
July 2015.
Oh
you've
my
been around
God.
longer, yeah.
Yeah, okay,
A lot of trial and error.
you win.
Yeah, you were doing before you were doing Orville. What were you doing?
I'm back to Egotastic FunTime, but still a lot of Orville stuff.
Dude, Egotastic is fun.
Yeah,
You
you
I know,
were
like, you know, I got to
Egotastic,
go
yeah.
back to the thing that I created.
Right.
Yeah, Egotastic FunTime. But, you know, I did Talking the Orville because I wanted to pay tribute to, I owe the Orville production so much. I owe the whole crew over there so much for my YouTube journey. I was like, you know what? They got a new season coming. I'm gonna do a whole tribute for to the
That was
Orville,
genius.
and I had to make it last 3 years because all the COVID stuff happened.
Right.
And I was like, oh no, I should have done this later. So I had to tread
Yeah,
water for 3
you
years.
rebranded and then COVID hit. You're like,
Yeah, but now I'm branded back to Egotastic FunTime, and I have a whole new. I've kind of changed things up, and I'm doing a lot of YouTube testing, which is just whatever I make up in my head. I want to test YouTube. So right now, I've been testing for the first quarter of 2023. I am very focused for February as a test on doing more live shows. You know, community based. I owe the fans a lot too. Lots of shorts.
Yeah, we noticed that.
Yeah, that's been going very well. And
Nice.
I just started it all as a test. going very, very well. I highly recommend doing shorts. Your
Yes.
subscribers won't even know you're doing them because they won't get bothered because you uncheck the publish.
Yes, thank you for that, by the way. We didn't know how that worked. We were so afraid to even try it because we thought it was going to wreck our regular videos.
I was too, and I said, you know what? I'm going to just go around through this whole description section when you upload a video and see if I can find anything to help out with that. There's a unpublished, but it still goes out, and man, it's so good, you guys.
Yeah, that's the way to go. It doesn't mess with your channel.
It doesn't mess with your channel anyway. Remember back in the day, we used to think going live would mess with your channel.
Yeah, we still think that, but
yeah, I did a bunch of research on that, and I know it does not hurt your channel.
Everyone is telling us that's not true, and it doesn't hurt your channel. But we're so afraid to try it.
Just do it.
Even if Susan herself was like, "No, guys, trust me, the live is not." We don't believe you, Susan. The one time we went live, we were getting like 100,000 views on a video consistently without fail.
Yeah,
and then live, and then it was like 10,000 views the next video.
Oh man, well apparently it's supposed to be every video is treated like a brand new video because it is a brand new video.
Maybe we'll live stream from our main channel then one day.
Try it out. It's been so long. I bet you might have a huge reception.
You might be right. Yeah.
Awesome.
I find when I step back and come back, you get a huge reception, at least off the bat. You got to keep them entertained though.
That's it. You got to.
Tell me I can't just go live and start eating.
You can.
It depends on what you're eating, Brian.
Yeah, don't eat soup. Don't eat soup on a live show.
Every time I see one of those YouTubers who have like millions of views and they're just eating like Del Taco, I'm like, I feel like we started the wrong channel because I can do that every day.
Taco Bell channel.
Yeah.
Even though I like me a good Del Taco burger, it's been years, but hey.
Super chat from Justin Vega. Thank you guys for bringing us all these cool videos and people you know. The insight that you give us is awesome. Can't freaking wait until Thursday. Yes.
So I missed the beginning of the stream. How did Alex do?
He did great. Yeah, he had some really thoughtful comments. He popped in at like the right moments. Yeah, he was. Yeah, you trained him well, man.
Yeah, we didn't. It's so difficult sometimes to talk when Paul Chato and Robert Meyer Burnett are on the same stream. So I get that, but he found his moments.
He did.
I know. I had to wait 30 minutes before those guys shut up long enough to get me on the stream. So.
We couldn't even find a break to get mad at. We're like, come on, let's go.
I'm like,
once he left, all the female viewers left with him.
Right, that's true.
Yeah. Well, they are the silver foxes. So,
quick, Brian.
All right, we got one more story coming up.
Yeah, we got one more story before we end it,
and then we can.
Because I came in when you guys were talking about the Flash trailer.
Oh, did you want to say something about it?
So it just made me want to see a third Burton Batman movie.
Mm-hmm.
Else, I was like, this looks terrible.
Oh, tell us what you didn't like about it.
I was not impressed by what I saw.
Really? Wow. Yeah. We're on the other side of this for sure, or at least I am.
I know. Like the best part of that trailer is when Keaton comes out and he's like, "Yeah, I'm Batman."
It's awesome.
And I was like,
yeah.
I was in a restaurant when that commercial played on the Super Bowl, and there was this dude behind me at a table, and he looked up from his food and he was like, "Is that Michael Keaton as Batman?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "I thought that was a Flash movie." And I was like, "It is." He's like, "What the fuck is going on?" But yeah, like pretty much the highlight of that commercial was every time Batman was on screen. So
I mean, that moment,
Batman movie.
That moment with Superman, Supergirl. I said, "Sorry," when he goes, "What are we gonna do, Batman?" He's like, "Just try not to die." And then he holds his hand down. Was actually pretty badass. My only criticism is really because Supergirl looks like Supergirl, except for I just don't understand why she doesn't have blonde hair. I feel like everything else is there. Why not just give her blonde hair? It makes
sense. You know, their hair color all the time.
You know what's funny is like I watched that trailer and I remember the comic book where like it was Superman who was escaping from that government facility,
right?
And Cyborg was there and all that stuff in the comic books. And I'm watching this, I'm like, it just feels like a bastardized version. The one thing that will redeem this movie for me, if they bother to do it, is if they explain Barry going back in time to reach Bruce
Mm.
in Batman v Superman. That one scene where he like pops out of nowhere and he's like, Bruce.
Bruce. Yeah.
Yeah. Like if they can actually explain that and tie up that loose end, I will have respect for this movie. If not, it's just dumb.
I hope they do, because it was only supposed to be explained in like Justice League 2 or something.
Well, see, that's the thing, is Snyder had planned to reveal that. And if you watch the Justice League, when he kind of ends it where they're in that desolated future with Jared Leto's Joker and all that stuff, it all stems back from the fact that Superman is supposed to basically, they kill Lois Lane on accident, right? And so Superman goes bad.
It's basically the plot to the Injustice movie.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like,
but they call it go around Earth a bunch of times the wrong way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, he said Lois the key though too, right? So it could have also been Lois the key for reviving him without him going crazy. I mean, they could do this thing at the end where he's like, I have one more quick thing to do real quick, where he just runs back, I mean, they could.
Yeah.
Or maybe Lois is the key is the key master, and they're kind of doing a Ghostbusters universe.
There we go.
You got to have all the universes together now in all these movies.
I get lost with all this stuff. Sometimes the multiverse stuff kind of makes me go, it hurts my brain. It's like almost too much.
I love the multiverse stuff. I just don't like the overlapping where everyone gets a cameo.
You want to talk about hurting your brain, though? Let's talk about Quantumania.
Good. Oh, nice, bro.
It was too good of a segue. I didn't try to steal from you, but it was too perfect.
That was great.
I want to see it because I love that first Ant-Man movie. The second one was a little bit more studio for me. I'm hoping and I'm sure the third one's just going to be studio,
wacky,
very corporate as well.
Guys, let me set it up for you guys.
Tie it into every other movie.
Wait, but before you go forward, you misgendered this movie. It's Ant-Man and the Wasp.
I have it here.
Yeah.
I have
That's
it.
right.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So
don't be misogynist.
let me reread it here. With Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania opening this week, Marvel has kept the pilot of the movie under wraps for as long as it could. What we do know is that we'll be spending a lot of time in the quantum realm and meeting several of its tiny denizens, including the film's main villain, Kang the Conqueror, played by Jonathan Majors. Marvel is putting Kang front and center in a lot of the film's marketing, and Kevin Feige even refers to him as the new iconic villain of the MCU, like Loki and Thanos before him. With Majors now calling for Robert Downey Jr. to return as Iron Man in Avengers 5 so he can face Kang the Conqueror, forget how we bring him back. Can the MCU pull out of this skid and do a 180 to get itself back on track to be the studio the fans once loved so much? What do you guys think?
Well,
I think I think they have to revamp everything. I think we played out the whole 2009 to Endgame and a little bit beyond, and I think it's time to start a whole new thing. Get some new characters out there, some new storylines, because I've seen enough of it at this point. When it's fun, it's fun. I mean, give me a hell of a lot more Guardians of the Galaxy. I'll take all you got. Right. But the story for Quantumania sounds like something that would have been really awesome for James Gunn to do.
Yes.
It sounds like whatever it is, if it might suck, it might be half and half. But I think if James Gunn had control of that, it would definitely be pretty damn decent.
Yeah, if you got to be wild and crazy, that's the guy to do it. I feel the same way. I feel like Endgame is sort of like for me, the MCU sort of ended with Endgame, and instead of restarting with something smaller, which Ant-Man would have been perfect to do, they kept trying to raise the stakes and Celestials and whatever, and it fell flat for me.
Yeah, they had a 10-year buildup to Infinity Wars and Endgame, which was great because you have this huge buildup and you have a big giant adventure to pay off for that. But then every movie after that was a new character being introduced or whatever, was always trying to be a huge movie like Endgame. No, you got to start over. You got to start over.
Yeah.
And then
and that's why the first Ant-Man was so good, because it was a small story about one guy.
Yeah, I got really sick of all the crossovers. I'm like, how many movies do I have had to have seen to understand this one movie that they're coming out with?
That's true. Yeah.
So Matt, do you think that that Robert Downey Jr. can resuscitate the MCU by coming back for a fifth Avengers movie?
Maybe. I think that's a little bit far down the line. The thing that interests me, and I'm not as down on Marvel movies as most people are. Like a lot of people echo Brian's sentiment of like, oh, it died after Endgame, like that was the last chapter, and everything else has been crap. And they're not wrong. But I've enjoyed all the Marvel fare, like in the movie front. In terms of TV front, it's different. But if you look at what happened after Endgame, so like Marvel had to shift gears. They had to start including TV shows. And before that, you had maybe like 2 or 3 Marvel releases a year. And so it was easy to keep track of like, what the movies had to communicate in order to build up to the big crossover. But when you start throwing in like, 4 or 5 TV seasons into that mix, it starts getting a little bit more complicated, especially because they're doing different things. You got a bunch of different creators coming in. And I think that Marvel's come out and admitted that COVID threw them for such a loop. Like they really had to re-edit a lot of their TV shows in order to, like Falcon and Winter Soldier famously had a whole virus subplot that had to be recut out of that show. And it made it make even less sense when you watched it. And WandaVision was supposed to come like second in the TV release schedule. And with like the Eternals and Multiverse of Madness and all this other stuff, basically they were scrambling to try to figure out like how to kick off the next phase because COVID just wrecked everything in terms of their release schedule and stuff like that. So what they basically come out and said is that, okay, everything from the end of Endgame to now, the Ant-Man, the third Ant-Man movie, was just kind of like its own thing, and we're going to kind of ignore it, and we're going to move forward from here on out with a more focused vision of how we're going to pursue the next phase of the Marvel Universe. And as one of the few people who actually really liked the Loki TV show, and that's kind of where they introduced, the concept of the multiverse and Kang the Conqueror and all this other stuff, I'm really excited for this third Ant-Man movie. I didn't think the second Ant-Man movie was very good. I thought the first one was good. But this one actually feels like a big epic, like this is the quantum realm part of the MCU, and it's going to kick off something that affects everything else in the MCU with Kang the Conqueror. And so I'm looking forward to see them introduce this like huge villain. It's going to lead into like the Fantastic Four stuff, the Secret War stuff, like all these plans that they have going. It all starts with this movie. And, Ant-Man's kind of a joke of a character. So like, I like seeing how they're positioning him to be like, this almost like tragic figure. Like I kind of feel like they're going to kill him off in this movie, just to make Kang, just to elevate Kang,
right.
And his daughter and the Wasp and the original Ant-Man, Michelle Pfeiffer and stuff like that are going to, kind of like have to carry the torch for him. So like, I do think that that Marvel's going to turn a corner with this film. And going forward, we're going to start seeing a little bit tighter of storytelling, because I think that they're starting to get the message that like injecting the woke politics and stuff like that into their movies is kind of like a losing proposition. So we'll see. But I'm very excited for this movie. I want to see like how it goes.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Same.
All right. Well, that's cool. JP, what do you think?
I definitely want to see it. I love the Ant-Man character mostly because Paul Rudd. That's my dude, man. He can play a character like that. I do worry that it might be too big of a movie. I'm getting a little sick of that. But if they do it well, always ready to give kudos to when something is done well and not really judge it until I see it. I just worry about it. But as I've told other people over the years that worry about this show or that show, what they're going to do, I'm like, we got to wait.
Yeah,
we can't put our fears into what could happen. We don't know what could happen yet.
Right.
So here's the big question for you guys: Evangeline Lilly, short hair or long hair?
Long hair.
Oh, long hair, 100%.
What the heck? You cut her hair off?
I liked her hair both ways.
Did you? Did you like it both ways?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a shock for me in the second Ant-Man movie. I'm like, wait, what just happened? The woman looks different now.
They're trying to make her look like a little boy. It's not cool.
I didn't like it. I want her long hair. I don't like
She'll
her. I don't
always
like
be
her hair.
Kate to me from Lost.
Yeah.
I like her.
I was like, damn it, Kate, can't you just stay out of this now? They found us.
They found us. Yeah, that's right. You're right. Good
She was
point.
always messing up someone's plans.
Yeah, I used to think I always preferred long hair. Then I saw this new Supergirl and Flash. I'm like, I think I like your hair too.
I don't know. Have you seen that actress with long hair? She looks much better.
I don't know. I think she looked great. Like everyone complaining about the blonde hair thing. For me, I was like, I get it that might be nice, but
Brian,
is there
that's the
any
next poll.
is
Long
there any
hair, short hair.
word whether or
That's the
not
next poll.
is there any word whether or not that actress is going to continue on as Supergirl in Gunn's plans, or is he going to recast?
She's probably just some alternate version. She might not even be the Kara that we know. She might be the Clark Kent of that universe, because they kind of referred to that in the trailer a little bit.
Well, in the universe, because of his time shenanigans, Clark is killed as a baby, and Kara is trapped by the government. That's pretty much
a dumb super baby gets killed right off.
And does that technically happen in the Burton verse? And that's why like Batman's the only like kind of like costume vigilante.
Yeah, so that's why that happens. Yeah, so that happens in the Burton verse, which is why there's no because you need, in order to have meta heroes, you needed like the kryptonite, right? So they didn't get the kryptonite storm because the baby never made it to Earth, so there's no meta heroes.
Well, doesn't he have a vision for Kara though that's different than what they've done in this movie? Because he put it out when he put out his Bible that she was going to be, torrid, or she was, going to have.
Well, it was based on the Woman of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Story,
so if they do it, it'd be nice if they use the same person. I don't see why they wouldn't, unless she's horrible, which I don't think she is. I think she's great. But
I mean, they didn't use Cavill. Are they just going to like recast Superman and leave everyone else the same?
That's a great question, man. Like, so
and they just keep Keaton.
James Gunn did make changes, like small changes to this movie to sort of fit his universe, according to what he said. I'm assuming that he's not lying, which means that like some of those small changes could have been some editing and not just some cutting. And if that's the case, the original end credit scene was going to have that they shot with Superman was going to have the inclusion of Henry Cavill's Superman back after they fixed time, and he was going to land next to Kara, whatever, and Barry was going to be like, "Oh," and make like some explanation, and that was going to be like the end credit scene. Well, they're not doing that anymore, so I suppose whatever he changes could fit into his new younger version of Superman, starting at the Daily Planet. I don't know. It can make sense though as to why there's a new actor doing it. Like it is a soft reboot.
He did say that this movie was meant to sorry about that. He did say that this movie was meant to reboot the DCEU. So like I'm guessing that there's going to be some type of like slate cleaner at the end of this film that gives him, kind of like the freedom to start planning out his version of the DCU.
I'd be fine with that because I think all the other characters have kind of gotten stale at this point. And plus none of them are my original any of those. I'm older. They're all my third or fourth versions of playing those characters.
I'm all about the Booster Gold movie. I've been wanting a Booster Gold movie.
That's gonna be awesome.
I'm just pissed.
I'm pissed that it wasn't sooner because Nathan Fillion would have done.
I was just gonna say that.
Yep.
There's a lot of things I'm pissed off that I think Nathan Fillion would have been awesome. They came out with the Uncharted movie. I'm like, damn it, Nathan's Fillion's too old to play Nathan Drake.
Did you see that short that he made where he played the Nathan?
Yeah, I've seen that.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
I think it might have been better than the movie Uncharted.
Yeah, he would have been perfect.
Yeah.
Well, this has been fun, guys. It's our first Raw Rant. Now we got our last 4 people here. Hopefully we'll get to do this every Monday, and we'll get you guys back hopefully on the show. And Matt, tell us what you guys are working on coming up, because I don't think Alex knew exactly what was coming a little bit, but you probably have your thumb on it.
Well, I've stepped away from the editing duties to handle the opening of our new studio, which means Alex is now the one who has to edit the films, and he's been falling behind on that. So of course he doesn't know what's coming out next. I think on the agenda is this Indian film Brahmastra that we reviewed.
Yes, he mentioned that one. Yeah.
So it's either that or The Menu, one of those two.
The Menu was great.
Did
you guys like that?
To watch The Menu.
I watched it. I dug it.
Yeah, it just depends on whatever he gets done first. But so like we're breaking down our old studio right now, and we're moving to the new studio officially tomorrow. And then we got to start getting that set up. So we're hoping to have everything kind of like ready to go by the end of February. But it's so much time, effort, and money. Like, I just had to buy more lighting equipment today So it's eating up all of my free time. But so once we get the move to the new studio, we'll start recording from there. And we've got 3 new episodes in the pipeline. Those come out on Fridays, and then every Saturday with Brian. We do Salty Saturday mornings with a rotating group of guests. This week, we have 2 special guests who are going to be on the show with us. The first is Cody Leach, who is a big-time movie YouTuber, specializes in the horror genre. And also we've got an astrophysicist named Dr. Thomas Target, who's been on our show previously, but he really wanted to talk about Star Trek Picard. So we're going to be reviewing the first episode of Star Trek Picard on Saturday. And we'll see if Brian's been BSing us about how good this thing is, because I know how much of a shill he likes to be.
My God, this Saturday is going to be so hard on me. You don't even know.
Vader's going to come to his house and kick his ass if he's lying.
It can truly be the greatest Trek since Voyager, which is what I believe. But there's still going to be people that won't buy off on it. And I've been decided 6 months. Yeah, they've already decided. They decided before they saw a trailer.
Well, here's what's hard too, is you really need the first 2 episodes, I think, before you're totally locked in. Like, you're going to watch the first episode and go, well, this is good, but you're going to say, okay. But
here's the thing, Shane. Here's the thing.
Go ahead.
The first 2 seasons of Picard had great first 2 episodes, and then fell off a cliff. They honeypotted us twice.
But we were with you when it fell off the cliff, and we said, yeah, you're right. That's bad. Right. But this time we went all the way through all 10, brother. So let me tell you.
But it's got a hill to climb, man. It's got a hill to climb, because those first 2 seasons were bad.
They were bad.
Like fan killing bad. Like, fans made the conscious decision to start not liking Star Trek anymore because of those 2 seasons.
And I don't blame
Star Trek.
Yeah, we're aware.
Until we saw this one, we were in the same boat. So listen, we can talk about all this after Thursday, because I know you guys are going to be watching it, and I'll be looking forward to hearing what you guys think.
I'm looking forward to Grace Randolph's expose about how you all receive money from Terry Metalis to like this one.
Yeah. Let us know.
She's got inside sources,
Yeah, her inside sources. Yeah. Every time she says, my inside sources tell me, I'm like, yeah, she's lying. Rebecca Spade just subbed to JP and Salty Nerd. Thanks for being here. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca.
So, speaking of Grace Randolph, that's a whole other topic. Goodness gracious.
We'll have to pick up one of those.
Hey, have you noticed Grace Randolph and Doomcock have never been in the same room together?
That's right. Ooh. Yeah, good point. Never in the same room together. Yeah.
Just saying.
Every time she's accidentally right, I'm like, damn it. It's gonna feed it every time. It's gonna feed the ego. Imagine if she's on like one side of the argument, Doomcock's on the other. That'd be genius.
Amazing. JP, what do you got going on your channel coming up?
Oh, well, I got 4 deeper ideas I'm trying to plan out right now as far as videos go. Kind of going with your guys' documentary style format. But I always try to have a huge variety of format. A bunch of live shows, some, regular videos of me just talking. Sometimes I do the sketches. A lot of shorts right now, like I said. But I do have some bigger ideas. I'm trying to figure out how to get them outlined correctly, and then I want to write them. And I don't want my dumb face to be in the videos. I don't always want to have my face in the videos. So the one that I'm working on right now, I've been doing a lot of research, is fan toxicity, which of course we talk about. But I'm going into, where's it coming from? So what I've been finding is some of it is Hollywood's fault. Some of it is character, a person's character's fault. And then some of it is biology. And that's the part that is really interesting me. So I'm going into the development of the human brain and where that stuff is found.
I got a thumbnail for you.
What's that?
Your mom made you hate Star Trek.
Your mom. No, I'm just kidding.
Sorry.
Your mom.
Well, I won't give away the research that I found. I'll put it in the video. But
okay, that'll be cool. We look forward to it.
JP, one thing I'd love to see you do some videos on is this show on Netflix called Lockwood and Company.
I've been meaning to check that out. That just came out, didn't it?
It's really, really good. It's from Joe Cornish, who did this movie called Attack the Block. It's based off of a series of young adult novels. It's kind of like it's almost like a spiritual successor to Ghostbusters. And
Very well.
it's a fantastic, really fun show. It's almost like Scooby-Doo meets Ghostbusters.
I've been big fans of both within my
and
my
I would love
timeline.
to see your take on that show.
I've been meaning to check that out. Every time I think it's on Netflix. I think you said as well, but I think I always see it there. I think so. It's always there, and I always look at it, I'm like, what is that? Should I check that out? Should I play it?
I was skeptical at first too, but once I started watching it, I was hooked. Like it's a really good show.
Nice, I'll check it out. It's
Excellent.
already on my list. Of course I'll check it out.
Good. Well, we look forward to
talk about
seeing it. As far as us, we've got some interesting stuff coming up. Hopefully tomorrow we'll be interviewing Terry Metalis for something special. And then we've got our other video, right, Brian? Our mic drop video is coming out tomorrow, right?
Yeah. You know why he's asking? No, like, I'm sorry. I gotta say this. You know why Shane is asking me? Yeah, the mic drop video is coming out tomorrow, right? Right, Brian? Right?
That's yeah.
Because he gave me the audio and the script and everything for it, like yesterday, basically. I couldn't even start working on it until
yesterday.
No, the night before yesterday. Hold up, the night before yesterday.
Right, but you don't sleep at night. So
yeah,
it's
but I
like
still
your
have
morning.
to sleep a little bit, Shane. A little bit. Okay. I'm not superhuman. So yeah, I worked on it a little bit. Then I went to sleep, and then the Super Bowl party. I had like 25 people at my house, all there to watch commercials because no one cares about sports. And then finally, I got to work on it last night, and I finished the audio portion of it. But I still have to finish the editing, which I've been doing it today. But then we had our show, so it's a 30-minute. It's
I shouldn't have asked.
Video. Do you understand? I have to get this done by morning. It takes about an hour for every minute of editing.
At some point, the mic drop video will come out. I'm sorry, Brian. We need to give you a pill. We're good.
Damn it.
When it gets out, it gets out. But we have the review of the first episode of Star Trek Picard Season 3 coming out Thursday morning. So I don't know how we're going to get both of those things done, but we will. and we got a lot of great stuff coming up. So thank you guys for all coming tonight. We appreciate you. Just, I hope you guys have a great week. Hope you look forward to what's coming. And anybody else have anything else before we go?
Oh yeah. So we will be back for our live show on Thursday.
Oh, that too. Yeah.
So we have the review that will come out on Thursday on our Prime channel for the first episode, along with hopefully Terry Metalis. We'll see how that goes. And then the live show later on that day.
And then we also have Todd Stashwick, of course, the Captain Liam Shaw of the Titan.
And that interview's already in the
big interview with him
that's
coming
guaranteed.
out too. So
Yeah.
just come back, stick around, like, subscribe, hit the buttons, come back and see us.
All the buttons.
And Brian gave me a great idea for a disaster movie where the world gets really, really dark, and it's called The Night Before Yesterday.
See, these are the videos we want to see you do. Keep doing these. Yeah.
Okay.
You need help with that. I'll help you. I want to see that. All right, guys.
Appreciate you guys. We'll catch
See
you
you on
guys next
Thursday
time.
or tomorrow, whatever.